Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of Leland Judson's Ancient Mystery Research. I don't even have a name for this show, sorry. Oh yeah, I was going to call it Magi Global Magi Easter Symbology, Key to Immortality. There we go, if I can read my own show title. So I've been working on this Easter special for about 2 years. Hey, Kim Jong-migway, he's joined the show already. Yeah, sorry, the intro was really long today because I was trying to share my link in Facebook and it just didn't want to share. So I was like, God damn, share already. Alright, so yeah, we're back. And no gaming for tonight. We're just going to be doing an occult mystery special. So if anyone's been wondering about the ancient symbology to Easter, not just in Western cultures, but cultures around the world, then tonight that's what we'll be talking about. Yeah, and the first image that I put up here is just a picture of Jesus painted by Da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci, the famous polymath from, what was it, Italy. I believe that's what his name means. Yeah, the egg symbology. So a lot of people might not be familiar with, they've heard of Easter eggs a million times before, but they might not have any idea what it has to do with Jesus, or what it has to do with immortality, or what it has to reach with reaching heaven. So that's what we'll be covering today. We'll be covering Easter baskets. We'll be covering the Easter Bunny and how not only is it the symbol for Playboy, but it's actually the symbol for sacrifice as well. And we'll get into that as well. And the whole meaning behind Jesus' sacrifice at Easter and what it's supposed to mean. And some weird news stories that just came on the news today. Well, I actually heard it a couple days ago now, but yeah, it's some pretty wild stuff that happened just in time for Easter. And it's like a weird miracle. So, yeah, we'll cover that as well. Oh, God. God bless me. Oh, sorry, just getting some sneezes there. I don't know, everyone's got their own triggers for sneezes. Some people it's food. Some people it's beautiful babes. Other people it's occult symbology. I get a little bit of all three. Alright, so yeah, anytime I see something that I really like, it makes me sneeze. Alright, so I've actually been collecting a bunch of these slides for, I don't know, almost 20 years now. So there's quite a bit of material that we have to cover. And it's going to be a really long show, probably like 2 to 3 hours. But we'll see how much we can actually fit in. Alright, so if anyone's never heard of rabbit legends before, there's actually a really common theme with rabbit legends around the world. So I collected some of those here, and it just so happens in Asia, rabbits were offering, or there was a legend about how a rabbit offered itself into a fire. And what it was there was someone starving that was a hero, so the rabbit sacrificed itself. So what happened was the gods were so impressed with the sacrifice that they drew a rabbit on the moon. And they also put the offering table that the sacrifice basically cooked them. So I was like, geez, that's pretty wild that if you look up on the moon, you can see that that legend is still there to this day. And the Aztecs, they also had the same legend. They said same thing, a hero was starving. Well, who was it? Quetzalcoatl. And so what happened was the rabbit also sacrificed himself so that he could get something to eat. Yeah, it's weird, eh? It's like... Yeah, that when you look at the moon and how much it looks like, I'm surprised I never noticed it before. I think it's because we always hear the man on the moon legend, so we don't even look for a rabbit. We're like, oh, where's the man on the moon? Alright, so what else do we got here? Yeah, so I started researching different ancient offering table sites, native cultures up north in Canada, and I started to find this shaman symbology with Easter baskets. So I decided I was going to dig into it, try to find a little bit deeper information. What's with the Easter basket? Why do we have it at Easter? We'll find out some more about the rabbit and why it's connected to the Easter baskets and eggs. Oh, and then how Jesus transformed into a light being. So I know a lot of people, when they hear about Easter, they don't really understand, like they don't even really say it that much in church, how Jesus was supposedly able to survive getting killed at Easter, like the whole sacrifice thing. And it had to do with immortality. And it turns out that there's a legend about immortality that's been popular across the entire world. Not only does it tell you how to become an immortal, but also talks about how the earth and all life itself started. So I was thinking we'll cover that part too. So more about the Easter baskets. Yeah, and this is the thing when it comes to the Easter baskets. I found out a lot about them from my Ukrainian Orthodox church, as well as Easter eggs. So we'll be covering a lot about where the history in Eastern Europe, where they got the Easter shit from. So let's begin next. We'll go to the next slide. I can't really spend too much time on each slide because each one is like, I don't know, we got 50 slides. And if we do like 2 minutes on each one, that's going to be a long time. Now I just got a little bit of whiskey. I'm sipping in Crystal Skull vodka glasses to help keep my voice a little bit. I don't know, I've been losing my voice a little bit lately, so I'm going through some stressful times, yelling too much. Alright, so we also got some images from J.J. Ainsworth, and I believe these ones she took actually from the Mexico Museum. Oh yeah, here it is, Mexico. So make sure that you check out JJ's page and give her a big shout out, thank her for sharing all of her work. She actually does some really cool work on YouTube, if you ever want to see a cool researcher page. I think it's called The Megalithic Maiden. If you check that out on YouTube, it should be by J.J. Ainsworth. Alright, so yeah, this image is mine with hers overlapped. And a lot of these are also from Wikipedia. So if anyone wants to see sources of these images, most of them are Wikipedia, mine, or JJ's. And if anyone else has an image in here I forgot to shout out, just let me know. Alright, so here's the Easter basket, the eggs. Oh yeah, that was reminding me, which one are we going to start with first? Oh yeah, and then the Jesus cross symbology. Now I know a lot of people that argue with Easter and say this symbology is all messed up, because the cross was an old symbol long before Jesus was ever nailed to it. And I actually agree with them on that to a certain degree. The only thing we'll talk about in this video is how this cross symbol is actually the ancient Magi symbol for the immortality ritual. So it really does have a lot to do with Jesus even before he was nailed to it, which is kind of fucked up. It's like one of those weird coincidences. Alright, so this image here is one I took up north on top of the mountain where they did the sacrifices in Canada. And yeah, then we also have a picture of Jesus turning into a light being and the Ukrainian stuff. This is actually one of my Ukrainian Easter baskets that we have in my dining room upstairs. And the egg is one of the Ukrainian Easter eggs that they have set up in Canada. I believe in Alberta or somewhere. It's on Wikipedia. Oh yeah, and then the Easter on the sacrificial rabbit on the moon. Yeah, so the first thing that we're going to try looking into is the egg. I figured the egg was a good one to start with, which is kind of ironic because now when I think about it, I'm doing it in reverse. But yeah, that's normally how I roll, so let's do things in reverse. We'll start with the egg. Now you can see that there's a lot of weird symbols that Ukrainians put on their eggs, and we'll be covering that in some detail. I actually just got a link for it today. I was surprised. And some of the research I'll be covering today is actually new to me. So we won't actually be covering stuff that's all review. I'll actually be learning things on the go as we go through these live. Yeah, Mars, Borderlands Guardian. Some pretty wild stuff. Alright, so here, a lot of people, let's get a quick review here. Some people right off the bat are going to say it's really weird. Like, I don't know, I was asking actually the same thing. Because when I was a kid living in Canada, we really didn't learn anything about Europe's culture. Similar to all these symbols and stuff that you find in Europe, I had no idea what any of them meant. So I was like, what the fuck, right? Like, why does Easter eggs in Europe have anything to do with each other? For some reason, when I was going to a Roman Catholic church, I had come up with the idea. I think a lot of people had this idea. I don't know if the church specifically said it as like an idea, but they kind of imply it. Or maybe we just all assumed it. I don't know. But anyways, when you're in church, in Roman Catholic Church, especially the one I went to, they don't really emphasize what race or culture any of the biblical figures are. So a lot of cases, you just assume that they're going to be Arab people, maybe people from India, because in Canada, we really don't know anything about geography. They don't teach us anything about like the Middle East, the history of like Iran and stuff. So I was like, always to my mind, I was like the biblical areas. I was like, this has nothing to do with European people. But then I didn't realize is the Bible actually explains what happened a really long time ago. So basically what it was is Noah, when he landed after the ark, going by the biblical stories, and we won't actually just go into the biblical stories in this. We'll go into Dead Sea Scrolls and other different cultures' books to see if they can collaborate any of it as well. So if anyone's worried that this would just be all Bible stuff, don't worry. I'll be covering First Nations history, collaborating it, Asia's history, even a bit of Africa's history. So it's pretty wild. But anyways, what happened is part of Noah's family, like half of it, the people that were living in the Middle East at that time, they were all the pagan Europeans, the giant red-haired people. I know a lot of weird videos are on YouTube about the ancient giants and how they might have had red hair and stuff. Well, this is where the Bible actually has verses that talk about that stuff. So what it says here, I'll just read it quickly. It's from Deuteronomy 20:17. You should not leave alive anything that breathes, utterly destroy them. The Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, and then a bunch of other ones, as the Lord has commanded you, so that they cannot teach you. So right away when I was looking at this, I was like, the Canaanites, the Hittites, I'd never really heard of any of these people. And then when I started digging deeper into it, I found out that they were the ancient European pagans. So the ones that were doing the fire worshiping, building golden pagan idols and stuff. So, and they were giant red-haired people. Like we're talking like 7 to 10 feet tall. Yeah, so if people haven't followed where the Bible story goes, the Bible actually talks about how height has changed a lot over the years and how in like ancient times people are way bigger. So around the time of like Adam and Noah and stuff, it was common for people to be like 15 feet tall and stuff. But then as the generations passed since Noah, people kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter to the point where you had like pygmy people that are like under like 3 or under 5 feet tall, right? So time has definitely changed and a lot of people have changed. And I know this seems like a weird theory to think that like ancient Europeans used to be super tall. But then when you look at the genetics of who they find out is like some of the oldest people and tallest people, turns out to be the Danish, like the Danes. And a lot of them are like known to be the tallest people in the world on average. I know they don't have the tallest, but just like general population average. Almost everyone's like borderline 6 feet and stuff. So yeah, so it's a weird thing. I know a lot of this is going to correlate to what some of the World War II research was all going on, people are fighting and arguing about, so I'll try not to take too much sides on that either. I'm sure there's cases where there's other people that are very tall as well, so I won't say it's just Europeans, but I'm going to say that there's definitely cases where there was giant red-haired people. It may sound ridiculous, but we'll get into more of the evidence for it. Right, so when I started looking into this idea that ancient red-haired people started to spread out across the globe around like biblical times and how that was happening. So then we had Adam and Eve, and then you look at their bloodlines. One of the bloodlines was Cain, and he actually got banished as far away as North America, I believe. So it's kind of ironic that we found a lot of the giant red-haired mummy evidence in North America, and we found the evidence that Cain may have been banished there. Man, one of the main reasons I believe that is I research a lot of the spots up north where I live in my province, and we have the second best gold mine in the world, and we have the most evidence for Cain being banished there, including the gold. No, because when God or the Creator used to banish people, he would banish them to places it was really good to mine gold, because he was really into collecting gold, getting his workers to collect it for him. Who knows why the gods would need gold, but anyway, so that's one of the theories about that. And we might get into more of the giant evidence in North America. But if you check out my other videos, I've covered that in great detail. So I'll probably try to stick to more of the Easter stuff here. So anyways, part of the other side of the globe, like Noah's ship that survived the Great Flood, we started to get the records of the different names of his sons that survived. And then I started to notice that a lot of these names were matching the people that started those villages that had to get wiped out. Like the Canaanites, the Amorites, all those people, a lot of them connected to these. So that's when I started to realize that, wait a minute, when they keep talking in the Bible about wiping out people that were worshiping the fire temples and building golden idols, they were talking about Noah's family. They weren't talking about some strange people that they encountered in a faraway land. They're talking about Noah and his kids. They were the ones doing it. I think the Bible even mentions it a few times, that it was every time God or the Creator turned his back on his people for a while and came back, they had started fire worshipping and building golden idols again. He can never stop them from doing it. Why? Because it works so well. But anyways, we'll get on to the generations of Noah a bit, matching the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I used to always think that Noah had red hair. This will connect a lot to Jesus and why he had red hair and such, but it turns out that Noah actually, from his description, was wiped clean during the modernization of our regular Bible. What did they call it? The Council of Nicaea. They took out the books of Noah. So when we took out the books of Noah, we lost what his description was. But luckily, when we got the Dead Sea Scrolls, we found out the books of Noah were still intact in those. So we were able to find out that Noah was a really fucked up type of albino. Like, you know, normally albinos have like red eyes or stuff. I don't think Noah had the red eyes, but he definitely had the super white problem. Like whiter than a sheet of paper type thing. Oh yeah, and then it was saying that he was so white that it pissed everyone off. They were saying that when they put him in a room that was dark, he was so white that it would light up the whole room. So they said it was really annoying to have him around if you wanted to get any sleep, because you couldn't. He would light everything up. So what happened was Noah's father was actually really pissed when Noah was born, because he said, this is bullshit. He's like, this isn't my son. My wife has definitely had an affair because this kid looks nothing like me. You know how that happens at hospitals sometimes? Yeah, so that's why Noah's dad was really pissed, and he hated his wife and said that he accused her of having an affair with a fallen angel. So what it turns out is the ancient immortals, I guess they used to look like that. So that's why if you had a kid that looked like that, you'd be like, oh shit, you were having an affair with one of those immortals. So that's why they say that Noah was actually chosen to be the captain of the ark or whatever, is because he was half God or something was strange with him. So we don't really know if Noah's mother did have an affair and if the father was like rightfully or wrongfully accusing her of that. Who knows? Oh, and the other thing that was weird about Noah is they said he was one of the only babies of that time that could talk the first day he was born. So they said that it was weird that they thought there was like some sort of spiritual or immortal abilities because he was able to talk already. And that's rare. Like usually a baby might say one word or something the first day they're born, but to be able to be like fully converse, that's fucked. Right, so the next thing we'll get into is I made another chart showing the different places that got wiped out and how this connects to the ancient red-haired people and why Freemasons are so into ancient mysteries. People must be wondering, like, what the fuck's with Freemasonry? Like, why do they give a shit about like the ancient mysteries? Is there some connection to Ireland or Irish people or Scottish people, the Freemasons? So this is where we get into that. And it turns out when we got the records from like what happened and people dispersing, we got Noah's base, or not Noah's, that Cain, when he got banished to North America, he ended up having his base here, and it was established as Magog, which may sound weird. People in North America, we actually have a Magog base, but yeah, we do. And then the other ones, it breaks down that from the Magog people, we had the different people from ancient Irish history. And they talk about how it includes Nimrod, the Tower of Babel, a bunch of other red-haired people. And then we get into Syria. Like Sidon is the capital city of Syria, where it used to be the ancient capital. And it was also the capital of the Phoenician Empire. These ancient red-haired people, they had traced their lineage back to the Bible, which is kind of fucked up. We should have realized this the whole time. The Phoenicians are these amazing shipbuilders, and they trace a lineage directly back to Noah, and not even that many generations. So when we were asking ourselves, where the hell did Phoenicians learn to build ships so good? Well, I'm pretty sure if fucking Noah was your grandfather, you probably know how to build ships pretty good, right? He might have taught you a trick or two. So yeah, Shem, Ashur. Ashur is actually the god, that winged disc that I used to have in my cutscenes for the Magi. Fuck, I was supposed to fix that for today, I forgot. Yeah, and Ashur is also one of Noah's grandsons' names, so it's weird that the ancient pagan god is also named after Noah's grandkids. Goes to show you how pagan Noah's grandkids really were. They were even naming themselves after the fucking pagan gods. So yeah, that's pretty pagan. So now we're starting to get into where this pagan connection to Easter is. We start to see that a lot of Noah's family was pagan this whole time. So that's why Easter, this Christian tradition or whatever, has so many connections to pagan stuff, because we've underestimated how fucking pagan Christian stuff really was to begin with. Going all the way back to Noah, fucking half of his family was pagans, maybe even more. Right, so it turns out that ancient Irish people do have their own version of the Bible. I didn't even know that. When I was growing up, I thought the Roman one was pretty much it. Then I found out that there was like the, the Slavic versions or the Orthodox. But it turns out the Irish have their own version too. And it talks about all this stuff that I just did, about how them getting kicked out of the Holy Land for having red hair, being giants, getting banished out, how the new tribes nearly wiped them out, but they escaped by traveling north. That's why European people weren't actually native to Europe, because we never used to live there. All of the Europeans used to live in the Holy Land and all the nice land around Iran before they got banished out by new tribes. So yeah, and they got banished out because, we'll get into more about what they were getting banished for. It has to do with this immortality ritual, the one for Easter. So we'll find out a little bit more about that as we go. Which is kind of fucked, right? Like, I always heard that Europeans weren't native to Europe, but I never realized that they came from the Holy Land. That's fucked up. So yeah, that's why we're starting to realize why the Ukrainians and all these different Europeans actually have all these biblical traditions. It's because it's the fucking same family that's been going on for generations. Now, when it comes to evidence for this outside of the Bible, you can crack open the most recent DNA studies. I know people get pissed because it's Fox News. I know I don't like Fox News for some of the stories they do, others I do like. And I'm sure it wasn't just Fox that covered this. But anyways, they started digging up Phoenicians' graves and finding out their DNA, and lo and behold, they found out it matches the people of Europe. So now they're kind of surprised that all these places in Europe used to have like red-haired people dominating them, but it actually confirms what ancient history has been saying all along. There's not much history you can find anywhere else that'll say anything different. Oh yeah, and here's Josephus. He's the other one that confirms this outside of the Bible, because like he was also a historian, so he wasn't just like a preacher or whatever. So when you look back at his records back in the olden days are considered more accurate than the Bible because he was an actual historian. So anyways, Josephus, he wrote all about the Table of Nations, the generations of Noah, and how it related to the European people. So it's not just like the Bible saying it, it's not just the Irish, it's also the fucking Josephus, the Jewish historians. Pretty much anyone you can find that was recording records about this at the time, it'll say it. Unless you find modern records, then you'll find out after World War II, they started to sweep a lot of this under the rug. People don't like to talk about ancient Europeans' history, but I don't know, I'm not going to sweep it under the rug any longer because I don't really think it is superior. I think every culture is pretty much equal for how great their history is, so I'm not going to wipe one under the rug because I think it's superior or something. Right, so anyways, the generations of Noah, it's not just Josephus, but a whole bunch of other cultures wrote about it, and here they talk about the Canaanites, the Hittites, Nimrod, all those like giant red-haired people that were getting wiped out for doing the immortality ritual. So yeah, the immortality ritual was actually really evil in a way that required sacrifice. So that's one of the reasons why you started to get to see all these red-haired people wiped out. It's because people wanted to stop the sacrifice. Another thing that Jesus had to do with Easter is apparently his whole ritual that he was going to do, getting himself sacrificed, was supposed to make it so that these pagans would never have to fucking sacrifice again to get their immortality ritual to work. Now, if you go into like different regions of Eastern Europe and ask them, were their lands dominated by ancient red-haired people? And obviously, in most cases, what you're going to find out is, yeah, my history lessons are a little bit piss off. I know a lot of people listen to it and they can't stand it. They'll fucking argue with me in the chat, be like, this is wrong, 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 wrong. I'd be like, yeah, I know. It's like, I'll try to cover both sides where people say it's wrong, some people say it's right. We'll try to look at both sides and people can make up their own mind. But anyways, yeah, so if you go into Eastern Europe and you ask those people if their land used to be dominated by red-haired giants, obviously 99% of the people are going to say, no, this is ridiculous. The people living in Bulgaria now have lived there for thousands of years and the lands never belonged to anyone else. Because what happened in Europe is a lot of land is constantly being taken over and fighting over it So people aren't going to jump for joy and celebrate that they're staying on land that used to be owned by someone else. So yeah, it turns out that all the old graves in Eastern Europe, a lot of them are still there, and they still have the red-haired fucking tombstone images on them. So we really don't have to ask the people, because they're just going to say whatever they think's politically correct. We can just look at the ancient records and see the graves, see the images of the people on the fucking graves, and a lot of them are redheads. So I know it may be hard to believe, like in normal days, asking people. It's the same thing here with North America. We're experiencing the same thing. As things go and people get conquered and different land exchanges, you get a lot of political stuff where you don't want to talk about it. So yeah, you'll definitely find people that say the red-haired giants weren't living everywhere, and then you'll find people, small amounts of them, that will agree, yes, they used to. Especially if they studied the history of it, then they'll be like, oh yeah, they definitely were. Yeah, they were known as the Thracian people. People haven't heard of the Thracian giants before. Turns out the tallest Roman emperor on record, Gladius Maximus or something like that his name was, he was near fucking 10 feet tall. I forget if they said 8 feet tall, 9, something like that. So here you had the tallest Roman emperor on record, and he was a Thracian. What happened was the Thracians were allowed to sign up in the bottom ranks of the Roman army, and he progressed from the lowest rank and made it all the way up to emperor, because he was way bigger than everyone else. And they said not only was he bigger, but he was built like Shaq. So it's like he was big, but he was bulky. And he wasn't weak. He was fast and agile. So I shouldn't say like Shaq. Shaq wasn't really that agile, but... So this idea that giant red-haired giants, like in history, even recent history, is ridiculous. Just check Roman history. You'll see it's right there. So what happened is, it says funny here too, Darius was one of the Persian leaders. He used to work with the Jewish tribes or priesthood to help wipe out a lot of these pagans. And it was funny when they did it, they ended up taking a lot of the pagan religions and started writing the Bibles and all the other books that we have for like the Jewish historians. So it's kind of weird. We get to see how the Jews managed to conquer all the places, took all the land and gold, and started to write their own Bibles based on someone else's culture. It's kind of funny. But that thing seems to happen over and over again in history, so I'm not really too surprised. So really what we have is the Jewish priesthood was copying the ancient Ahura Mazda, like winged disc, the pagan god stuff. And that's where we're starting to get where the Christians ended up getting a lot of the pagan beliefs, is because the Jewish people are the ones that wrote it in to begin with. Yeah, Rufus means redhead. That's pretty fucked up. No, what's funny too is the red-haired people used to be the most dominant in the entire globe at one point because their genes trace directly back to Neanderthals the closest. So I know a lot of people make fun of the red-haired people and say, haha, you're closest to Neanderthals. But what that really means is that their genes were the most dominant over across the entire globe at one point. Almost everyone was red-haired. But the genes for that have been getting smaller and smaller and smaller over the years, to the point where red-haired people are the most rarest on the planet right now. So if anyone's wondering why this picture of Da Vinci shows Jesus with red hair, it's because Da Vinci was also an adept student studying the ancient lineage of the biblical figures. So he knew that they traced back to these ancient red-haired giants and stuff. And he probably had met a few Phoenicians, because I don't think Phoenicians had really been completely wiped out in Da Vinci's time. Like there's even still a few red-haired Syrians living in Syria today that are natives. So they always wonder, like, how are all these red-haired people native to Syria? Isn't that kind of weird? But no, that's why, because Phoenician people had the red hair. Or they would say auburn, so maybe Jesus' hair was a little bit more auburn than red, but still pretty close. Alright, so we got into the egg stuff. I think there was actually a few website links that I wanted to bring up, so I'll try to do that next. For God's sakes, man. Like, really? Why can I not look at this screen without the image vanishing? That's fucked up. Alright, anyways. What I wanted to do next is I think I'll bring up a picture of the Easter eggs from... Yeah, I should have put these in order so make it a little bit easier. Yeah, let's do that. Alright, so this is just a picture of one of the Easter eggs that we have in my Easter baskets for our Ukrainian celebration Orthodox Ukrainian. Because we're half Ukrainian in my family, so I got to learn a little bit of the traditions, but not much. So anyone who's an expert on these eggs, they can definitely maybe fill in some more details about what I missed. Alright, so what we'll do, we'll bring up the Easter egg stuff, and I'll make the font on this quite a bit bigger so people on cell phones can follow along as well. Yeah, so this will be the first clue when we start asking, what the fuck's with Easter eggs? Why do we have Easter eggs at Easter, right? Like, what the hell does that have to do with Jesus reaching heaven? No more need for sacrifice. How the hell did it end up in European culture? So they trace back the source of the early Christians of Mesopotamia. So there we go, you got the whole Sumerian, the ancient European stuff, that's where it's tracing all the way back to. Let's see here. No, they also did find them in Africa, which I was very fascinated about this. Because I know a lot of people will say a lot of this ancient Magi stuff and the occult rituals that are reaching people to immortality is all European. But I wouldn't say that, because we also find it in Africa, Asia, and this is where we're starting to get some of the Africa stuff. So this is where actually I was finding it quite interesting. I've had trouble finding the records for Africa. I know even Asia is a little bit sketchy with records because China burned a lot of their ancient history. But yeah, so when it comes to the Africa stuff and you're finding it, I'm like, holy shit. If anyone else has information about the Africa stuff, let me know, please. You can share it in the chat or get a hold of me on Facebook. Well, let's read some more. So yeah, so they were popular 60,000 years ago in fucking Africa. That's pretty amazing. And they had the representations of ostrich eggs in gold and silver by Sumerians, Egyptians 5,000 years ago. So that's like a lot more recent, right? When you compare it to those fucking African ones. Holy shit, 60,000 years. Yeah, so a lot of the eggs, they were stained red to symbolize the blood of Christ. So now you're already starting to see why a lot of these egg symbologies have anything to do with Jesus. Right away, it's the coloring. So now you're starting to see, oh, that's why we use eggs, because it has to do with his crucifixion. Now I was thinking, oh yeah, here are some of the other stuff we do is the ancient Easter baskets. And then it starts to talk about like all the different cultures that have used these Easter eggs and baskets. The patterning. Now I just got a whole article talking about what the patterning's from, and I don't know if I'll save it for the beginning or maybe we'll do it now, or maybe at the end. Right, so you can start to see when you list the countries that have been doing these eggs, like Easter eggs, it's Lebanon, which it's kind of funny because Lebanon is where you go where the ancient Phoenicians were from. So if the ancient Lebanese people were doing it, then they might have gotten it all the way back from dating back to the fucking Phoenicians, but who knows? So yeah, Georgia, it's that part near Russia. I always hear Georgia and I think of the States, but no, the Russian one, or recently conquered by Russia. Shouldn't make fun of that. Bulgaria, Cyprus, Greece, Macedonia, Romania, Russia, Serbia, and Ukraine. So Ukraine is the one that I'm a little bit familiar with because of half of my family. I started to research a lot more about Bulgaria and only briefly scratched the surface of like Greece and Romania and Russia. Russia's a hard one to get ancient history from too. I don't know if it was like the communists that wiped out a lot of their culture and replaced it with the communist shit, but yeah, it's hard to get the ancient stuff from there too. Alright, so they're definitely gonna got some more. We'll get into what's the big deal with the eggs in the beginning. The egg hunt. Now, I think there was one part that I got to the egg hunt. I'll have to get to that soon. Egg dance? What the fuck? Ooh, the chocolate eggs. My favorite. Ah, the trees. Ooh. The dairy cow. It actually kind of looks more like an ox with the size of its horns, but I guess it is, yeah, dairy cow. Yeah, there's the giant one from Alberta. So if anyone's wondering where that image came from, it's Wikipedia from there. Right, so when we got the egg stuff, it starts to talk about how the color red is to symbolize the blood and the crucifixion. And there was a parallels with other faiths. But I think it had something to do with transformation, but I'm pretty sure we'll get into that when it comes to the actual egg rituals. We'll bring that one up next. Oh yeah, the Persians. So the Persians would be the ancient Europeans that were from the Iran area, and they have like the Nowruz, the New Year's festival that coincides with the equinox dates. Yeah, so they used to have the egg tradition. That's pretty wild. So the Zoroastrians are the oldest living relatives that we have, or maybe not relatives, but the faith tradition that still survives of the golden idol fire worshipping pagans that the Bible tried to wipe out, which is kind of wild, eh? That those remain, and they used to use the egg tradition, so that's cool. Yeah, the hare, we'll get into more about hares, but it turns out there's a huge tradition with sacrifices and rabbits, and that's where that whole got tied to the Easter eggs. Here it is. In Judaism, the hard-boiled egg representing a festival of sacrifice. So that's what Jesus and the whole immortality ritual was about. He was supposed to be the sacrifice, so we'd never have to sacrifice animals again. So there we get to see why the egg ties into the whole Easter thing. The paint, the ritual of sacrifice, and the transformation. Let's see if we got the transformation stuff. Oh god, man, if I didn't save that one, that was really my favorite one. I was hoping I wouldn't forget to save it. Maybe it's this one, and I just can't remember the name of it. No, that's bull worship. Fuck, man. Right, I'll have to move it off the screen and do a search for it. I can't believe the most important one for the show I lost. Alright, egg rituals. Oh my god, and it's not coming up. Yesterday I was able to find it no problem, first search, and I didn't save it, and now I can't find it. Alright, so we'll just skip that part so it can go fuck itself. If it doesn't want to be part of the show, it doesn't want to. Or anyways, all I was going to show was a Wikipedia article showing all the different egg transformation stuff over all these different cultures, and it was really the best one. I can't believe it's fucking not in this list. Generations, Easter egg, burnt offering, energy, fuck you, Alpha and Omega. It's not in this fucking list. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Alright, so we'll take a little break here, and we're just gonna find this, because this is really gonna piss me off to fucking no end. And yeah, and that image just won't stay on the fucking screen. It just refuses. Yeah, doing the search just won't bring up the fucking article on the eggs that I wanted for this show. I can't believe I forgot to save it in the fucking files. God, you son of a bitch. Okay, I think I found it. I don't know, this doesn't look like the same one, but it'll have to do, because I can't spend like a half an hour looking in a live show to see if I can find the article that was supposed to fucking save where I goddamn saved it. Sorry I get pissed off sometimes, guys. I need to hit the vape a little bit more here. Alright, so let's bring up the world egg legends. Alright, so you have different egg legends that you find all over the world. And basically what it's talking about is that the egg is a portal for transformation. Obviously things are born in eggs, so they're coming from like another world of non-existence and making it into our world. So in the Vedic cosmology, they talk about a cosmic egg in Sanskrit and stuff. Golden fetuses. The universe in its early stages. Zoroastrianism talks about the egg. That's pretty wild. Oh yeah, and then they have listed here unique created bull. So we'll get into more of the bull symbology and how that has to do with Easter. The Orphic egg, which was from Zeus and all that stuff. That's pretty wild. Egyptian mythology, the egg. Oh, Phoenician mythology is in here as well. That's pretty sweet. I should have known the Phoenicians would have been big with the eggs. I was just saying that, right? Oh yeah, and then the Chinese. So they did have the egg symbology cult stuff, but I think a lot of it probably got wiped out by the communist regimes, just like in Russia. And we'll get into that too, why all these different communist regimes were allowed to wipe out all the history. It's actually part of the creator's plan. Dating back to that article we read earlier at the beginning, about he said wipe out all of their culture so that they can't teach you. Making this into a giant mystery was part of the creator's plan. Why he wanted a giant mystery for us all to solve makes it kind of seem like the entire universe is set up like a giant like game or role-playing game or something, but I try not to look at it like that too much. Alright, here we go, the Dogon. The Dogon got the egg stuff too. So that makes sense, because the Dogon, I was trying to find some shit out of Africa that would explain the egg mythology, and yeah, other than the Dogon, I was thinking maybe the Nubians. Bet you the Nubians had some good shit about the egg. Now, we'll get into the ritual and how it involves the egg too, but we'll see. Let's go to the slides and see where we're supposed to be at next. What I tried to do is organize this presentation with slides so that I could reach everything. Alright, so we're on to the basket next. So I think I covered everything for the egg temporarily. We'll summarize the egg once we get to the end. Alright, so the basket, similar to the egg, has a lot of strange symbology. Oh yeah, that's what I should do. Let's cover the egg symbology on it first before we go any further. I just found this one today, so it got shared to me on Facebook. Hopefully there's no sound on this website. I forgot to check it for sound. Sorry about the ads. And sorry about it reducing the zoom. I don't know why, I just had it like max zoom and it for some reason went back to normal. Alright, so here you have the Ukrainian eggs, and some people are arguing with me when I posted something about Ukrainian eggs having peacocks on them, and they said that it wasn't a peacock. But then I looked it up and found out, yeah, Ukrainian peacock eggs are very common. So the idea that it wasn't a peacock, I don't know too much about, but maybe it was some sort of pheasant or something also. Alright, so they definitely put plant symbology on it and animal symbology. And a lot of the plant symbology that you'll see on it is the world tree, the sacred tree. We'll get into that. That talks about how after the creator separated all the legends to make it into a giant mystery, that at the end of his whole plan, everyone's supposed to use the world tree to figure everything out, and we'll be back together again. So anyways, another one is the horned beast, like the ox. So we'll start to see why the ox and horned beast are on the egg so much. And the sun, I obviously can't talk about these ones too much because YouTube will get it taken down right away. So just pretend you didn't see that. No, my friend, First Nations guy, Kevin Najawan, he was teaching about the First Nations belief about that sun symbol up there we're not allowed to look at, and he was permanently kicked off Facebook for it. So I was thinking that's pretty wild, that even First Nations people aren't allowed to share their history on Facebook or be silenced by fucking Zuckerberg. It's pretty fucked up. But anyways, yeah, so the symbology of the stars and the heavens, that'll be on there, because the heavens are actually the location, the stars, that show the ritual, the sacrifice ritual that Jesus was trying to prevent everyone from having to do. The flower one, we'll get into more of the flower one. I was even thinking that relates to the gravity wells. Now that I look at it, that's pretty wild. The pine needles, I don't know too much about that one yet. We'll have to look into that. The curled snake, the snakes of wisdom. That's one of the things that will come onto the sacred tree. So it's pretty wild that they put the snakes on there. The infinity symbols, the S shape of eternity. A lot of this stuff is new to me. Like, I don't even know about Ukrainian culture because in Canada, they taught us how to build like canoes and teepees. So we really didn't learn jack shit that helped us in real life. So yeah, like the tree of life. So that's one of the other ones on there. Now, I can't believe that, man. I literally spent like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years of my life, 5 hours a day, fucking carrying giant textbooks around, teaching me how to fucking build canoes. You gotta be fucking kidding me that I spent that long in a fucking Catholic school of all places. I know people are like, oh, Catholic school, they teach you nothing about the natives. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That's all we learned about. God, it was fucking annoying as fuck because it didn't help you at all. It's like, I really didn't care how to build fucking teepees, you know? Like, I know when I started getting into off-grading and stuff, then it started to become useful, but I didn't need to spend 5 years of my life learning how to build a fucking teepee. Anyways, duck legs, God's hand. Yes, we'll get more into the God hand and the creator. Oh, can't look at that one. God damn. Alright, so grapevine. I swear you didn't see what was above there. Has nothing to do with ancient European history. If it did, Facebook would have it banned and YouTube, it'd be gone. Right, so grapevine, the oak leaf, the sheep and the oxen. Yeah, so this is where we get to the big one. The sheep and the horned beasts. We'll find out very soon why that's on there. And the bird, like the peacock, possibly the pheasant. Someone was saying one of them was a pheasant, and I guess it could be. But I was thinking more peacocks. Roosters, I don't know why the rooster would be on there. Maybe the early rising from the dead. The fish, that's the Jesus symbology, the horse, the deer. Right, so yeah, there's a whole bunch of other stuff on there, and just make sure you stay clear of that stuff that'll get you banned from researching. I know there's some of that on there. Sorry, can't help it. My culture is banned on Facebook and YouTube. Damn culture, why couldn't you have been different? Yeah, it's all okay. Well, that was it for the basket. No, that was the eggs. Now we're moving on to the basket. We'll try to speed this up here. So this one is a slide put together by Magi. So if anyone's wondering whose slide this is, make sure you check out her work. I think I have her on Facebook. She's pretty cool. So yeah, these Easter baskets are very common in ancient cultures all over the world, and people have actually been trying to solve it. Like, what the fuck is in the Easter baskets? Why do they all these cultures carry it around on all these murals and statues? Like, what's the big deal? So then I happened to pull up a video on YouTube. We'll see if I can bring it up here. If anyone wants to check it out. What it is I found an official source from like a museum, like one of the top-notch researchers, official ones in the world. So here's the link here if anyone wants to check it out. I just gotta make sure I don't got any big pictures of boobs showing. Alright, so there we go. So if you want to check it out, the Assyrian relief of the Palace of Inshapara II, or whatever that name is, check out that video on YouTube. If you want me to summarize what the academic says in it, shit, only 132 people have liked it, and I'm one of them. And it was published back in 2013. Anyways, it explains, that researcher or academic, that each one of these holy bags was filled with water. So that's why they were carrying around a bag of water. So there's still a debate of what they were using holy water for. Like, the principle of holy water is debated across the globe still to this date, if it actually does anything or not. Yeah, so that's what they were carrying in the Easter basket, and these ones was water. So I don't know if people were wondering what's the big deal with water and an Easter basket. Like, why the hell would you be carrying water for a sacrifice ritual? We'll get to that next. See what we got for slides. Alright, so here's another location. As you see, the Anunnaki, or the half bird, half god, winged men, they also carried these holy bags of water. And these guys, when they're connecting to the sacred tree, also connected to the symbology of Omega. So Omega, we're going to be talking about that. We covered it a bit with the egg. I was thinking, isn't that funny that eggs have omega-3 fatty acids? So that whole egg and omega connection. And then we have the Easter egg symbology of the different plants. It's not only found on the Easter eggs, but was associated with these ancient trees. Even the ones from Japan. This one's actually the royal regalia of Japan from the royal family, and it's actually still hidden in a museum. They don't let the public see it, as far as I know. If anyone in Japan has seen it, the emperor's regalia, let me know. That'd be sick. So anyways, we can start to see that this is where the bird and the egg symbology is starting to come from. So not only do they draw the sacred trees, but they draw this giant bird. So we'll be covering in this episode what the fuck this giant bird has to do with Jesus and the sacrifice ritual, and why all these birdmen are associated with it, and what the hell a birdman even is. Like these Anunnaki gods, the immortals. How the hell did Jesus become one? Alright, so here is a collection of the sacred trees that are normally on those Easter eggs from all over the world. So if some people want to get too Eurocentric and say this is all European shit, it's actually not the case. Because you find it in Africa, the Aztecs, like the First Nations people, Europe and Asia and India. Although some people might debate that India got their knowledge from the Vedic texts, and the Vedic texts came from the Aryans from Iran. So technically it would have been European, just a different route to get there, but Hell, well, we'll still call it Indian for now. But anyways, and the peacock feathers are at the top on this one. A lot of times they'll put the serpent, and the serpent is to do with that knowledge that we had grabbing earlier, the knowledge of the transformation ritual from the that occult Easter ritual that required sacrifice. And we can start to see some of the sacred trees. We're adding in the theme that sacrifice was part of this ritual. And we'll get into this symbology here at the bottom. Also covers sacrifice. Let's see if did I already cover it. No, I was thinking that one has it, but it's the next one. Yeah, so this is what Crazy Horse was talking about, the First Nations guy, that when he was talking about 7 generations, when the colors of mankind would all gather again under the sacred tree, that we've all been separated for a long time. All the knowledge about this was taken away from us. It was like some sort of challenge to see if we could solve it all again one day. I think we're doing pretty good. Like, there's researchers all over the world that have been putting these pieces together. So despite how far of like a challenge we had before, we're actually getting closer and closer every day. And I think we are like past the 7 generations point, but some people say it still is 7. Some people are saying we're at 8 generations now, but I don't know, 1 generation off isn't too bad for a prophecy. I think Crazy Horse was really on the ball when he was talking about his prophecies. All right, so we can see that this Christmas tree symbology actually connects to this immortality ritual. And I illustrated this slide here to show it. So it's like you had this one here is the version of the sacred tree that we're looking at the Christmas one. So the Santa holding up the cones, the baskets, the different robed saints. That's where we get the robed saints from. And then these winged creatures, the angels, the Anunnaki. Well, let's cover them a little bit. I think I got a slide just for them. I was thinking, when do I want to cover it? Now might not be a bad time. All right, let's see. The angels. There it is. Yeah, Dan Davis was asking, why did China burn all of their history? Yeah, it's a good question. What happened is the Yellow Emperor, if you haven't heard of him, China used to have like a whole bunch of languages, whole bunch of different like tribes of people. And what happened is the Yellow Emperor, he's like considered a mythical emperor, but some people actually believe he was real. But anyways, he had a plan to unite, or maybe it wasn't the Yellow Emperor or the first emperor, might be getting those two mixed up. So anyways, the first emperor, he decided that he needed to unite China, that the biggest problem they were having was they had too many cultures. Multiculturalism was destroying them. So what he decided to do was gather everyone up and say, no more are we going to have more than one language. He said anyone caught using multiculturalism gets killed. So what they did is they made sure that they wiped out all of their culture and just made one culture for everyone to follow. They said that what it was is when they did that, it would unite China into the biggest powerhouse in the globe, because all that multiculturalism was destroying their country for generations. They said everyone couldn't understand each other. All they would do is fight and try to conquer each other. And anytime you can't understand each other is when people start fighting. So he's like, yeah, no more of this understanding. We're just going to make everyone have the same language, same history, no other histories, burning all their history. It's pretty fucked up. So anyways, when it comes to those angels that are to do with like associated with this ritual to become an immortal that Jesus was doing for Easter, we have like the history of angels themselves, and it actually dates back to the Amesha Spenta. And the Amesha Spenta is actually where my whole journey researching ancient mysteries began. I actually had an encounter with the Amesha Spenta when I was very young with a friend of mine outdoors. Not like indoors, like sleeping or something. We actually were outside when this weird encounter happened. And what they are is they look like angels or light beings. Basically, they look like just like sort of like ghosts, but they're like physical energy, not like they can just pass through things. It's like they're actually there. So anyways, these ghosts are immortal light beings. They're also associated with these angels, and they date back to like those Sumerian tablets and shit. So that's where we get these angels from in history, why they got wings. I'll explain in a minute why they got wings. Yeah, so it's Judaism. And you know what's funny? These old legends that we have about the immortal angels fighting the Israelites like Jacob, it turned out that this legend about wrestling angels isn't even exclusive to the Bible. If you go to First Nations people like the Ojibwa and stuff, they have the same legend. So I was like, what the fuck, man? Why did they have the same legend as the Bible? They phrase it a slightly differently. Like instead of finding a baby floating in the river, they find him floating in a lake. And he's same thing. He grows up to be the village leader. He ends up fighting the immortal angels in a big wrestling match. The wrestling match goes on for days. And then after the angel is defeated, they get some sort of gift. It's pretty wild. So yeah, it may not be the exact same legend, but it's weird that these wrestling angel stories, you find them all over the place, not just the Holy Land. I think every land has their own Holy Land. We focus too much on the Middle East and call it the Holy Land. Yeah, so Kabbalah, it's got the angels in there. I've actually got a book in my bookshelf. I'll go over it one day. It's the oldest book according to the angels. It's the first book that was given to man. The book is Sephirah the Angel. Pretty cool book. It's got a lot of the sacred tree knowledge and stuff in it. I think it's what a lot of Kabbalists use, and maybe the Freemasons to some degree. Alright, so this idea of these angels is pretty common all over the world, even in Islam too. That's how I was lucky. As much as sometimes people pick on Islam, they do actually provide a lot of the information from the ancient, the old mystics from Islam. Like mainstream Islam isn't so much offering, but when it comes to the mystic stuff, they still have a lot of the ancient mystery stuff in it. Yeah, even the Persians, they showed the angels as people with wings. So if you want to find out how people get wings, it actually turns out to be the ritual that Jesus was doing for Easter. So we'll get into that. Oh, Sikhism's in there. Hermetic Kabbalah, Theosophy, New Age movement, Satanism. Yeah, Satanism's pretty cool. They talk about how the fallen angels are also the angels because they have like that immortal light quality. Oh yeah, that was one of the slides I want to bring up. I wonder if I have it ready. That might actually come up later in the show, so we'll have to skip the angel part for now. Alright, so we might get back to some angel, well, we will get back to some angel stuff if we have time. Alright, so if anyone's wondering why the angels are on these like ancient or these religious things, that's where it comes from. It's not like just the Bible, it dates back to like ancient Sumerian stuff. Yeah, here we got the bag one. This is another picture, oh yeah, the same picture that JJ took from the Mexico Museum. It's got the bag and how like the ancient shaman were always carrying these Easter baskets because they were really into that ritual to become immortals. That's what I was thinking, the old days, there wasn't really too much you could focus on. Women, family, maybe booze and partying, and turning into immortals, like gods, rituals, that sort of thing. Didn't really have TV, sports wasn't that big yet. Alright, so here is the Shawanasawi school, and this is where we're going to get talking into where Easter and the First Nations traditions connect. I know we touched on it briefly, but I know this is one that really pisses a lot of people off, and I've talked to some First Nations people about it. Some hate it, some don't. So you really can't please everyone, so sorry for anyone that's pissed off about it, but you're more than welcome to join the debate in the chat if you got counter arguments. Alright, so anyways, so it turns out when it came to different prophets around the world, finding out about this ancient immortality ritual and how to do it, it wasn't really just Jesus. Shawanasawi was one of the prophets that also seeked it out, and he's actually the one in most recent times. Even though he's like a First Nations prophet guy, I don't think he was that old. Like when it comes to how many years ago this occurred. I don't know if it's 500 years. I could be wrong. If anyone else in the chat knows Shawanasawi's history and they want to tell me how old he was, I forgot to add that to the slides. So anyways, the Shawanasawi guy, he went to a place called the legendary Dreamer's Rock, and it's a place that shaman go to enhance their powers. It's actually where Freemasons have been going to enhance their powers as well. And it's the spot where First Nations people are still guarding it. So like even if you went there today, you have to get permission to go to this rock and to get your spiritual powers enhanced. So yeah, what happened was is Shawanasawi went onto this rock and he had his own like type of weird Easter power ritual connection to the creator. Well, let's talk about that. But yeah, and then when he was talking to the creator, some of the information he brought back, it looks just like the Sumerian stuff. How we have these winged deities on the side and the duplicates. Well, yeah, let's cover what the duplicates are. I wonder if we got the slide for that. Now, I was always wondering that too. Why did they always show duplicates of everything? Like one half? Like one person split in half? I wonder, do we have that? I fucking don't have it in there. Son of a bitch. No, I could have swore I put that slide in there right after, so it'd be ready, but maybe it'll come up later. So that's what I was going to say, is that this ancient Magi tradition about this Easter ritual, it actually isn't just with Europe. We start to find it all over the world. Even the Anishinaabe or Anishib or Ojibwe. And I'm not sure how to pronounce everything. I know in our First Nations history, we always had Western teachers teaching us it, so we never learned pronunciations properly. All right, so just to clarify like how close this ritual is, yeah, I haven't even talked about the ritual yet, so let's do that before we go any further. Because dear God, I'm looking at a lot of these slides, and I'm like, man, we really should have talked about the ritual. The one that Jesus was trying to stop, that we didn't actually have to do it anymore. See if we have it. Fuck, man, did I really not get a slide ready for the ritual? That'd be funny as hell. World Egg, so that's on there now. Immortality. For God's sakes, man, I never put it in here. Alright, so that's another one I'm going to have to look up. I'm pretty good at this, getting a presentation ready. No, don't worry, I'll try to make a more polished version of this. This one is just a first go. See how much I fuck up for when I do the more polished version. Alright, so the Orion history. Or I'll call it Orion Legends Wiki. You know, this was the one that was the most crucial part to my whole presentation. I can't believe that I didn't put it in the fucking... Well, I actually can believe it. Who am I kidding? If I didn't forget to put it in, then I'd be surprised. Alright, so yeah, let's bookmark this tab in there. Alright, let's bring on the Orion myth. So what happened is the oldest records that we have of where this Orion mythology comes from is every culture on the whole planet. So when you try to argue who's got the oldest, good luck. It's like arguing whose culture is the oldest on the planet. So anyways, the Greeks talked about it. Let's see. Oh, I know what it is. I'm looking at the Orion one, but that isn't the one I was looking for. What I was looking for is the Pleiades. That's the one. Now, the Pleiades ritual and the Orion ritual is actually part of the same one. Ah, there it is. That's why. I did save it. All right, there we go. All right, so... what happens is, you know, I need one slide here, and I don't have it. It's really pissing me off. I'm going to have to look it up right now, because I can't go any further without it. It's just pissing me off. I can't believe I didn't put it closer to the beginning. Oh yeah, I've got like halfway through the fucking presentation. Alright, so anyways, let's go to the ritual. So if anyone's wondering, why is it taking so long to load? It's just an image. And it didn't even load. You gotta be shitting me. Did it really not load? There we go. Yeah, it like loaded and crashed. Alright, so if you look up in the sky, what you're gonna have, notice how we already got the cross symbology here. That's because this is the ancient ritual, the Magi we're talking about. And this is the Magi ritual that they taught Jesus, and that they were teaching him that he didn't have to sacrifice anymore. So anyways, the ritual begins at the Pleiades star system. So when they got the ritual and the Pleiades stars, this is where everything begins. And as the timeline of the ritual progresses, this is like reading a book. And you know how books we normally read from left to right, from up to down? Well, other cultures, like I think, what is it, China, it could be Japan, they start from, right to left, and I think from down to up. And that's actually how the star ritual works. When you read in the sky, you're supposed to start on the right and work your way to the left, just like the ancient Chinese or current Chinese text. So anyways, their ritual starts at the Pleiades, the 7 stars, and then what joins people to the 7 stars Pleiades is the ox, like this giant horned beast. So this was part of the instructions, that we needed to sacrifice a beast in order to get this ritual to work. And what the theory behind that was, is that the gods actually protected this ritual so not anyone could do it. So if like you were a jackass or someone they didn't want to do the ritual, you couldn't do it. And the way that they safeguarded it, it was only someone who was pure of heart could do it. So one thing that fucked mortals over is you can't do it because no one's really pure of heart. Everyone's constantly fucking up. We always make mistakes. No one's lived a perfect life. So you were fucked. No one could do the ritual. So what the gods did is they made a safeguard that would allow you to get past the ritual, or they made a little exception that would get you past the safeguard for the ritual. And what that safeguard was, is they decided that if anyone was willing to make a really big sacrifice, it proved that they were sorry for the mistakes that they had made that made them impure. So the biggest sacrifice you could make at that time was the horned beast. Why? Because the oxes were the most powerful beast that helped the farmers, and the farmers needed the ox or everyone in the village would die. Because if they couldn't farm the fields, everyone was fucked. So that's what they were saying. If someone was willing to sacrifice an ox, it proved that they were worthy enough to do the ritual. Or that they were just a jackass and they stole an ox and they were going to kill it. So anyways, that's where the Jesus part with the Magi came in. Is they were trying to teach people that we did not have to do the ox sacrifice anymore to reach the Pleiades, or to connect to the Pleiades. So remember that one slide that was talking about the hand of God or whatever? I think that's what this part is. And I don't know much about the First Nations interpretation of this slide. It's a museum in Ottawa that talks about it. My trip there got canceled because of the whole lockdown. So I'll have to take the trip soon, and maybe I can find out what this hand of God is all about. If anyone is First Nations and they want to fill me in so I don't have to go to the museum, that'd be great. Okay, and then the other part of this ritual is it reaches all the way to the very end. And the end happened to be Canis Major or Anubis. So they considered this the birthplace of everything in the universe. And this was the gate or the egg that would transform you or teleport you to the next realm. So that's why Anubis was there. He was guarding people going to the next realm. So this is also why you find Anubis legends all over the entire globe. We'll get into more about that. So here you have the Easter ritual. Oh, and it's also got the rabbit or the hare at the bottom. And we'll cover that as well soon. So that's where you start to get where the rabbit is connected to the Easter ritual. Because here we have the Easter ritual. Man, the foundation of it is the fucking rabbit. So there we go. There's one of the First Nations clues to solving why the rabbit is connected to Easter. If that's not fucked up enough for you. Alright. So I'm just going to have to do another little vape here. I'm getting really winded. No, it is fun to talk about these ancient mystery stuff because I used to only talk about it. Got a good break doing video games. Now to talk about it again, it's kind of refreshing. Not so repetitive. Alright, so, oh yeah, and grabbing the serpent. So you remember how we were talking about grabbing the serpent for knowledge and a lot of these different symbology things? It's because of the serpent in the sky and the winged disc person is grabbing it. Oh, and this is what I was going to tell you guys too. Remember how I was talking about how some of those people were shown having wings? And sometimes you see demons and they're represented having horns? Well, when you were doing this ritual and you were doing this part of it, like if you were at this phase, they would represent you as having horns. So that's where you get the depictions of people having horns and being demonic. It's that they're at that part of the ritual. And it's funny too, because this ritual talks about creation and destruction. So that's why one part is demonic and one's heavenly. It's creation, destruction. So when you're at I guess the destructive portion would be the horns. But it's weird. Some people signify the horns as creation and others the wings as destruction. So it can be inverted depending which culture you're looking at it from. We'll cover that too, how the First Nations people's gods were actually the demons in other people's cultures. and vice versa. It's kind of fucked up. Even the Vedic and the Zoroastrians, their gods are like that as well. So anyway, so that's where we got the bull sacrifice. So every time you start to see the Easter ritual and they start painting horned beasts on it, that's why. And this horned beast was actually universal across the globe, but sometimes they had to switch the animal because like not everywhere had oxes. So sometimes they would do an ox, sometimes it'd be a sheep or cows, or depending which area you're in. You might even like get to like deer and moose and stuff once you're in First Nations or North America. I don't know if they had the ox in North America. I don't think so. Could be wrong about that. Yeah, and then the depictions for Anubis, they only slightly varied around each different culture. We'll get to those. All right, so let's go back to where we left off, and I think I wanted to do the website one. Oh yeah, the Pleiades. Because yeah, now we talked about how when the one hand of that winged disc creature, or the god, or the superhuman man, or the Orion. Yeah, if anyone didn't notice, the star system in the belt of that guy was Orion. So when you hear about Orion's belt, that's what it's talking about. The god man inside of in that giant circle. Oh yeah, and the one reason it had the ring around it is because it spins in the sky. So if anyone sees Ahura Mazda or the winged disc symbol and they're wondering why there's a ring around it, it's because he spins in the sky. Alright, so all those Palladian legends, you can find them all over the world, in the Bible, the Talmud, Jewish sources, Islamic, Turkey, Iran. And Iran, that'd be like I don't know if it'd be ancient Iran or modern Iran, probably both. Alright, Palladius was common in Europe, Greek mythology, Norse mythology, Western, Celtic. So that's where you get the ancient red-haired people and they're doing that ritual. They knew all about the Palladies, that's for sure. Baltic, the Danish, remember how we talked about the Danes? Ukrainians, the ones we talked about, the Easter eggs, the Hungarians, the indigenous peoples of the Americas. Remember how we were just talking about how they talked about the Palladies a lot? So yeah, they were into it big time. And the Aztecs, we'll have to get more into that. I haven't really looked into the Palladies contacts with the Aztecs. I know normally when you hear about Palladies, it's that crazy UFO shit on YouTube. So I normally stick away from it, but now that I started to research, there actually is some legit legends about it in all the ancient cultures. That was like, huh, maybe there is something to that Palladian shit yet. Alright, so I'm not going to mention all these cultures, because dear God, I know you guys can read. Probably read better than I do. Oh, here we get into China and Asia. So the great emperor, first emperor, he wasn't able to burn all their history about it. Oh yeah, and if people are wondering, you know how this year is the symbol of the ox, and it's the metal ox? That's because the Chinese were really into this occult ritual as well. We'll get to it soon. Alright, so we got China, India, Japan, Philippines. Nice. Big shout out to the Philippines community. Yeah, I miss my Filipino friends that I met them through one of my buddies. He married a Filipino girl, or woman I should say. And yeah, her son plays disc golf. Man, is he good. He can shoot it even farther than me. So I miss playing disc golf with him. Can hardly wait till the lockdown shit's over. Alright, Thailand. Holy fuck, Thailand's got it too, eh? No shit. Now this is where the First Nations people they were talking about on YouTube, how they started to connect with the First Nations people in New Zealand and Australia and found out that they shared the same Pleiades legends. So they were really starting to get fucked up where they're like, hey man, like why are all these cultures in remote continents in the world or islands sharing all the same Pleiadian legends? Now our critics rightfully will argue that yeah, the Pleiades are very bright stars in the sky, so it's only a coincidence that everyone's researching them. But I just think it's weird that they all have the same legends. Like, to a certain degree, they'll talk about, like, 7 sisters or something. Yeah, the UFO community is really into the Pleiades, so I try to stay clear of that, but who knows? Maybe they're not too far off the mark. I know I talk a lot about paranormal and alien shit, so I'm just as guilty about it as anyone. Yeah, the 7 sisters. Yeah, so the 7 sisters, they talk about it in the First Nations communities, different parts of the globe. It's pretty fucked up when you think about it. I better be careful just clicking on random stuff on Wikipedia, because I know sometimes they got pictures of boobs. So let's go back to the slides and see where we left off. Yeah, that's where we did. Where we were getting to Shawanasawi and how he got all this information about the sacred tree from the creator and what his whole encounter was like. So we'll talk a little bit about that and where it connects to the Easter basket, why the fuck they had water in it. Alright, so we got here the winged disc symbol that you find all around the globe, and they're all trying to depict that Orion guy, the man standing in Orion. And the reason they depict him as a bird is because he's in the sky spinning around in a circle. So you can start to see why like the ancient Sumerian ones or Assyrian were depicting this giant winged guy. And it's funny that he's this old man with a beard. So that's what we're going to talk about Shawanasawi. So when Shawanasawi, the Ojibwe, or I could be getting his tribe wrong, if anyone, or band, if anyone knows which one it is, it could be the Anishinaabe or the Ojibwe. I kind of get those two mixed up. I don't know if they're more related than I know of. But anyways, Shawanasawi was visited by a huge thunderbird. So when they say he was visited by the thunderbird, at first I was kind of thinking, hey, maybe it's like a UFO, giant metal craft coming out of the sky. But then I started to think about it. I was like, wait a minute. When they talk about the thunderbird being above you, and it's spinning above you, it's often that spinning of the stars. He's looking at the Orion, the Pleiadians, and how it makes the man spinning in the sky. But the weird fucked up part about it is even if it was a ship, or he's just looking at the sky, this is what he described seeing. He said eventually he started to see the Creator come down on a cloud. So he was seeing the Creator was like this old man with a giant white beard, similar to how Noah looked. Remember how we covered the Noah slide? So I was like, isn't that fucked up that the First Nations people had the same idea where there's the Creator on a cloud, sitting on a throne with a giant white beard? I know normally that's like a Eurocentric idea, so people aren't very common to hear it, that First Nations people encountered the same Creator God. I know the church definitely wouldn't want to share that information because they tried to distance the First Nations from the Bible as much as they could. And I know even to this day they did a really good job because no one wants to connect the two. So what I did is I took depictions from like, I forget, was this like ancient Israel, and they showed how in the Bible they also talked about the Creator God as being on a winged spinning thing. So it's like you're a wing spinning thing. We just looked at a Creator God wings spinning in the sky. So I'm pretty sure there's a connection to that. But anyways, and he's this giant old man with a white beard. So fucked up situation here. We got the Shawanasawi First Nations guy talking to the Creator floating on a cloud. So how does this connect to the Easter basket? Let's go do that. So the Creator happened to be holding a dish of water on his lap. And people might be wondering, how do you fill those dishes with water? Like, how did the Creator do it? That's where those bags come in. So when you want to use one of these technology of the gods, these mirrors that can show you the past, the future, the present, that's where they were getting those bags, the Easter basket. It's part of the technology. Sort of like a liquid crystal display. You know how we have liquid crystal TVs? Well, the Creator God, he has a liquid crystal display also. But he has to pour his liquid out of a bag, the Easter bag, I don't know why. And when he pours it in, it's not your regular liquid crystal. So let's see what he showed Shawanasawi. So the Creator held this dish of water on his lap and asked the Shawanasawi to look into it. In its reflection, he saw the future. So it turns out the future that Shawanasawi saw was the horrible future of Europeans coming to North America to take all the land. And it's funny, well, I shouldn't say funny, it's horrible, but ironic at the same time, is the Creator told Shawanasawi, don't freak out about it. He's like, this is part of the horrible plan I have, but it's going to work out in the end. So it's like, holy fuck, right? Can you imagine Shawanasawi's disgust when he's seen that all the Europeans were going to come and totally destroy everything, and there's nothing he could do to stop it? The only advice that the Creator gave him was to concern himself with his laws, his people, and not to freak out over it. Oh, and he also taught him how to build megaliths, like how to align totem poles to the equinox. similar to this technology we got for the ritual. He was like giving him information about that. Oh, and he taught him how to heal everyone with plants. So that was pretty cool. So when Shawanasawi came back, I encourage everyone to check out the legend. I'm just paraphrasing it. They used to have it posted online, but it got removed. So I'm thinking what they want is for people to actually have to contact the First Nations people, get their permission to get the legend, and then read it. I probably shouldn't keep sharing the legend, but I don't know. I love the legend so much that I can't help sharing it. No, and yeah, if you do happen to get a hold of legend, maybe give some money to the people that are working hard to preserve it, because it's I think it's part of their culture when they exchange legends, that they're supposed to exchange legends for monetary goods. It was their form of currency for a long time. So part of the oral tradition. So to keep that tradition alive, everyone really should help them out. Not like charity cases or anything, but really they put a lot of effort into it, so they should be compensated. Right, so yeah, I find oral traditions from the First Nations people actually very superior to the Western tradition of writing shit down. Because I figured it out what it was. Is First Nations people, you might think, oh, these oral traditions, they're going to get corrupted like a telephone game, and you'll never get the true history in the end. But then I found out the problem with writing it down. Problem with writing it down, you got to give it credit. The Jewish scribes, they kept the same shit written down for a long time, like however many 1,000, 2,000 years or whatever. But the problem with that is when you have a written word version, all it takes is one council of Nicaea or whoever it is to say, hey, we're going to make an updated version of this book. And then everyone starts writing the updated version, and then that old version just gets destroyed. So there you go. If like an oral legend is being shared by First Nations people, there's never one person that can change all the versions. But when it comes to books, all it takes is one person to make a new revision, and then all those older books get thrown out and revised to the new one. So yeah, that's what it's the danger of writing shit down. Only takes one revision for everything to get fucked. But oral tradition, you can't fuck the whole oral tradition. There'll be people all over the continent that are talking and sharing it. You can't get them to all change it at once. So if people want to debate what's better, oral tradition or written word, I kind of started off believing written tradition, but now I'm starting to go more with the oral. I think oral is superior. Who knows? Maybe I'll change my mind again. Right, so the Playboy Bunny. I know it's kind of funny that people think of Easter and then they start thinking of the rabbit and they associate it with Playboys, like the sex models. But yeah, the best boobs in town. But there's a reason why that's the case, the whole rabbit and Easter, and it has to do with something, well, similar to sex. We'll get to it. I just got to pour another shot here. Starting to lose my voice a little. Oh, I'm only an hour and a half in, and I think we're already over half the slide, so we're getting close to the end. This is pretty good. Making good time. I was worried it was going to be 4 hours, to be honest. Alright, so when it comes to the Playboy Bunny, you might think of what the hell does that have to do with sacrifice and Easter? And we talked about it at the beginning, how those different legends around the world talk about rabbits throwing themselves into the fire so that heroes could eat them. And yeah, it turns out rabbits are basically nature's like most sacrificed animal. Like basically rabbits, they reproduce like crazy. So even though they're dying at a high ratio, the creator kind of balanced it out. So he's like, hey, if you're going to be dying, that's a really good sacrifice. In exchange for dying all the time, you get to make love, like hump all day. So that's why these rabbits, despite dying all the time like crazy, other animals eating them and being sacrificed, they actually get a good reward out of the deal. Because now they get to like hump all day. That's basically their whole life. I don't know, I shouldn't say that's the ultimate reward, but it is for rabbits, right? Now, in the Bible, they talk about it as having the most generations, like offspring, is the greatest gift the Creator has ever awarded someone. So if you get tons of offspring, it's like the ultimate gift. So when people are talking about how like the rabbit is like not related to sacrifice because that's what Easter is all about, well, there you go. The rabbit is actually the ultimate sacrifice symbol found all across the world. Now, it turns out the First Nations people, you know how we showed that chart and how it had the rabbit at the base of it? It's one of their symbols for God, I think, or one of the creator gods or animal gods. So let's bring that one up next. No, sorry for the First Nations people who don't like their history shared. I know they're supposed to get some monetary in exchange for it, so if anyone watching this is able to do that in some way, please do. Not to me, I mean First Nations people. Alright, so here's where this image comes from. Right, so the Nanabozo. I'm sorry I can't pronounce any names right, not even my own name. So yeah, anyways, the Ojibwe have this rabbit god. And let's see what he is. I'm trying to read this and I'm forgetting because I've only read it once. Oh yeah, the Ojibwe trickster figure. He's a cultural hero. And oh yeah, that's what I was going to show about in Bulgaria. Remember I was talking about how some cultures have the same god, but one call it a demon, the other call it an angel. So here in the First Nations, we have this Ojibwe rabbit trickster figure, or a hare. He's very dangerous, but they also call him a cultural hero. So even though he's tricking people, he's still considered good, or at least a hero. He's also a shapeshifter. Now I don't know if anyone's heard about my different adventures up north, but when I was like doing the Holy Mountain rituals on the mountain, and I was like getting frustrated and leaving the mountain, I asked for a sign and I encountered a really weird hare. And I've never even seen a hare before. Like in my life, I'm from the city, so I'd only seen rabbits before. So when I encountered this weird hare, it was pretty fucking wild. Like it freaked me out. And it was a weird hare that it acted like it was supernatural. Like it walked right past me like it didn't even see me. And it, like normally an animal sees you, it just runs away, right? It doesn't like walk right past you. I don't know. So there's a lot of cool history about, oh yeah, here's one of those things too. You see the First Nations word for spirit, Manitou? You'll find this word, like spirit, Manitou, is universal even in ancient Persian. So they called it Manu. So Manu and Manitou, you have a very similar word for spirit. So we'll get into where some of the languages around the world regarding this Easter tradition are actually the same as well still. Yeah, so I just wanted to give a little shout out to that tradition. Oh yeah, the Indian folklore, fairy tales. No, someone else shared me that picture earlier and I was like, wow, that's a really good picture. Yeah, so I encountered this weird fucking like trickster looking rabbit, and luckily it didn't do anything to harm me. I was very fortunate. It actually just walked right past me like I was a ghost. It actually went like right through me almost. I was like, what the fuck? Some weird rabbit. And I didn't even know about the hare gods and all that until I got back from that adventure and then started trying to research what the hell happened. And then I was like, oh, so that's why. When you encounter some weird rabbit shape-shifting god, that's what it's all about. It's fucked up. Alright, so let's go on to the next one. Now, I appreciate anyone who's sticking through this. I know it's a long presentation, fucked up. Most people are gonna, it's, like, I don't know, I researched this for 30 years, and I'm still researching new stuff about it all the time. So anyways, this was the rabbit that I encountered on the mountain. Looked just like this. So when I saw this creature, I was like, holy fuck, man, this is not your traditional rabbit. So that's when I found out that hares exist, and that different hare legends exist. And yeah, that was the thing that freaked me out about seeing the rabbit, or hare, is it had this big mustache. So I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, how many rabbits do you... Well, I guess maybe every rabbit has... I think what it was is he had the mustache and the goatee. So that's what really freaked me out. Like, normally you see a rabbit, it might have the mustache, like big whiskers, but it doesn't have the full beard too, right? Like a goatee. So I was like, man, this rabbit or hare that I encountered was really fucked up. I wish I got footage of it, but my camera actually died just before it came. And I was even saying, just before it appeared, that, oh, now something will happen. And yeah, something did. Right, so that's where the rabbit comes into this whole sacrifice legend. We'll get more into it, I think, as we go. Alright, so now we're starting to get into the symbology that I got on my shirt here. The Yi, or the Yi symbol from Bulgaria, or ancient Eastern European traditions. And we're talking about, I don't know if you've ever seen it, if you've gone to a church and they have a symbol on the church and it's called, what is it, Alpha to Omega. So this is where we're going to explain where that connects to Easter. So if anyone's wondering what the hell Alpha to Omega means and what the fuck that connects to Easter and why they have it on churches, that's what we're covering next. All right, here it is, Alpha to Omega. Alpha. Beta. No, I'm just kidding. So here we got Alpha to Omega. So what happens is the Greek alphabet, which our alphabet is based off of, has an extra letter, which is Omega. So Omega is actually the end for theirs, which I find it funny. Oh yeah, because we're reading it backwards. So it makes it the end. So anyways, yeah, the ritual of this Easter ritual to become an immortal that you have to sacrifice an ox for happens to be illustrated by the legend or the whole words A to Omega. And the people are wondering why that is. It's because it's beginning till end. So we're like, how the fuck would I conclude that the alphabet is a cure or a clue to solving this ancient mystery of our fucking origin story, the Easter legend, the whole shit? Alright, so let's see. Well, I haven't even looked into Alpha Omega yet, the official version, so let's read it, what it says. The Alpha Omega comes from the phrase, an appellation of Jesus. Oh. Yes, I should have guessed. If it was the ritual that Jesus was doing, it would have to do something with something he said. I repeat, I am the Alpha and the Omega. So he was trying to say that his ritual that he's doing is going to replace the Alpha Omega ritual. The one that requires the ox sacrifice. So it's the beginning of the end. Yeah, so that's why you start to see that, yeah, this is all over churches. I know in my church they put it a lot too. But look at the other symbol. They put in this winged disc symbology. Well, yeah, you know how the winged disc, before we showed it as just a bird with a circle around it? Why the hell would they show it like an X like this? So let's, oh, and the A to Omega. So let's explain that. Let's see if I have that slide ready. All right, so here we go. Yeah, so what I was trying to do is I looked up the first letter of the Slavic alphabet to see what it was. And then I found out it was this weird symbol like upside down horns, right? So I was like, why the hell is it upside down horns? So then I looked up the origins of the letter to see where it came from. And it happens to be the symbology for an ox. So that's why they have the ox at the beginning, just like that legend that we seen at the sky. Remember how the winged disc creature had the Pleiades on this side and Omega on the other? So when he was starting at the A, at the beginning, that's where the ox was. So that's why the Slavic traditions had the A at the beginning. So it'd be basically Alpha or ox to Omega. Now, as we went on in time, the hawk symbol or the ox symbol got changed to a bird in some cases. So say the Phoenicians, or we'll do the Egyptians first, because some people say the Egyptians are older. I tend to think it's the other way around, but just for interest's sake, maybe they were tied anyways. So we're debating something that's meaningless. But anyways, the Egyptians, they knew all about the winged disc symbol, but they focused more on the bird element of it, the wings, rather than focusing on the horned part of it. See how they had the horned part of it over here? They were focusing more on the bird version of it. So when they drew it, they decided to call their first letter, the A hawk. So they did the symbol of the winged disc as the first letter rather than the actual ox. Which kind of makes me wonder, did they start the ritual in a different way? Where they started in the beginning or the middle instead of going to the Pleiades first and Anubis last? Could be a clue there. But anyways, the Phoenicians, when they decided to do their same first letter, they did the same thing where they did the bird beak, but they made it more into a letter shape. Like Phoenicians, they were famous for what they did is they took like a really complicated languages, like, you know, Sumerian cuneiform, and they translated it to a normal letter alphabet. So they took really hard symbols and switched them for like actual letters that people could draw. So they were one of the only groups that could read cuneiform and they could read European languages, like the early ones. So that's what they were doing also with hieroglyphs. They would take in complicated hieroglyphs like a bird and then just draw it like a beak sideways. So now we can start to see where our letter A came from, which is kind of funny, right? Because we got all of our languages from the Phoenicians. So when we look at their origin of the letter A, then we're pretty much looking at the origin of our letter A. You can just spin it on the side. So no longer is it a bird beak sideways, now it's straight up and down, which also matches, like you can see the A here, right? The arch in people's step also happens. I think that's why English people turned it that way, to symbolize the actual man standing, the A. Because of the man being in the winged disc was a big part of it. So they actually, yeah, so in a way the English put man as the beginning of the legend too. It's weird, eh? Like other cultures sometimes did that, where they put man or humans as the center of the universe, rather than accepting that the Pleiades would have been the origin, and that humanity is just one step of the journey. It's not really the origin. Or this, we always make ourselves the center of attention, right? So yeah, you can see in Slavic traditions, they also had the same thing, this winged disc creature in the sky, where they had to grasp the serpents. Egyptians were really good that they showed the ox part of it as well. So we don't have to just like look at the winged disc and wonder what the hell it means. We can actually see they added the ox there too. Oh, and then the Egyptians added in the Ankh, and the Ankh is actually the symbol for this A to Z or Alpha to Omega ritual as well. And the reason for that is the Ankh is known as giving life, and this ritual is immortality, right? So that's why you would have the two interchangeable. All right, so even the Incas, like I was talking about South American stuff, they had a lot of the same tradition for this god ritual, or the Orion man ritual, immortality, the Easter ritual. Right, so that's what I started to do. Oh yeah, when I was looking at the symbols for ox and A, the Slavic letter A, ox or I or God self. It was interesting how a lot of the explanations for the letters not only would like explain it as self, but it would also be God. So it's like the God self. So you hear about that God self iconism in the ancient times. Probably because like the man in the sky, right? The guy with the beard. He was a man after all, not a woman. I'm just kidding. You know, maybe he was a woman. You don't know. We didn't check below the belt, right? Anyways, so it turns out when I was checking the Chinese historical forums, they did the same thing for the A or ox or whatever. They had it as like a weird symbol, very similar symbology, which I thought that was kind of funny. So here we're getting into the metal ox symbology. Like this ritual involved, if you did it completely, you transformed into a light being and you made it to the next realm. And another translation for, what is it, a word for transformation or symbology is alchemy. So let's bring up the alchemy next. I think I got that ready here. See if we got the alchemy. Alchemy. Ah, here it is. Alchemy. So what it was is in ancient times, people were always trying to figure out how to turn lead into gold, or basically how to change anything. But it wasn't only about changing metals, it was also about the creation of elixir to achieve immortality. And one of those immortality symbols was the rabbit on the moon. So we already talked about that before, the rabbit in the moon. So that's where we're starting to connect like ancient East, what the metal bull or metal ox. Metal, like these things, was also interchangeable with immortality, like the alchemy of it all. So that's why when you say the metal ox, that's actually referring to the ox ritual of transformation. So I thought that was kind of weird and kind of neat that I should do this presentation this year after working on it for like 10 years. Or probably closer to 20 years, fuck. Actually, all my research, if you combined it, it's probably over 30 years. Because I did start right about when I was about 10. Alright, so yeah. And we get into alchemy being popular in the Egyptians, Mesopotamians. And they talk about alchemy like changing shit into being gold as a complete waste of time. But it turned out that in normal ages, we actually did learn how to change stuff into gold. We can change, what is it, Mercury. They said it's not easy. It takes a lot of fucking energy, but we can change Mercury into gold now. Yeah, see here, East Asia, they were really big into their immortality thing. Actually, I was going to read that next, so let's read it now. The white hair, or he's mixing the elixir of life on the moon. So that's funny, eh? That moon, or that moon rabbit or hare that was involved in sacrifice, he's mixing the immortality potion inside of that Easter basket. Isn't that fucked up? So when we're talking about why Jesus achieving immortality at Easter has anything to do with the rabbit, and we see fucking rabbit is on the moon mixing the fucking elixir of immortality, that's fucking amazing, right? Yeah, then they talk about this rabbit being in the India, so the Vedic text brought it to them, the Europeans, Japan, popular culture, pop culture. All right, so we've actually covered quite a bit of the websites. We've covered quite a bit of the slides. Let's see where we're going to next. I'm interested to see. Hopefully we're getting to the parts I haven't researched much yet. I think actually we did a little. Yeah, I'm just looking at more Chinese origins of glyphs and how they change from the ox to their letter A. Ah, Mithraism. So if anyone hasn't wondered, but at this point yet, we started to talk about sacrifice religion, so we'll talk about that a little bit more. If we're going to talk about Jesus not or stopping the need for sacrifice anymore, we should really look in to see why sacrifice was even needed in the first place. Right, so let's go to sacrifice. We'll read that first. This is kind of gross, these parts about sacrifice, so I'll try not to get too graphic. I can't even stand the sight of blood, so this really kind of fucks me over, but I'll do my best to read it. Right, so sacrifice is an offering of food or objects like live animals or beings to a higher purpose. And people for generations have wondered what the deal was for sacrifice and why so many cultures all over the world started to do it, because they were actually getting it to work, right? And what was it doing that it worked? So that's one of the things people have been trying to decipher. Now and then one of the oldest sacrifice rituals there is the Adam and Eve one, where they were having a battle of sacrifices to see who could summon God the fastest. And it turned out that Cain was like into veganism, and he had all these plants. So he's like, yeah, let's do vegan sacrifice. I'm sure the gods will love that. And the gods hated it. They're like, God, vegan food sucks ass. They didn't want anything to do with it, so they just ignored it. And then Abel did his sacrifice of like animals and foods and meat. And the gods just loved the smell of burning fat. They're like hardcore carnivores. So they they came to his sacrifice. So yeah, that's like the oldest sacrifice we have in the world, evidence of, that we know of. Now and then at occasional times, they didn't always sacrifice the ox. They tried different things for different results. I think what they said was the ox works the best, but they had other alternatives that they could do in the meantime if they didn't have oxes. Yeah, in other cases, they actually did try plants and stuff, but I don't think the plant sacrifices ever worked. Yeah, they said the plant sacrifices were less common. Yeah, you'll notice it doesn't really matter what the culture is. They all had the horned beast as the ultimate apex of the sacrifice tradition. So it's really weird how all the cultures could determine that an ox would be the ultimate sacrifice without all knowing about that ritual. And how did they all get the ritual from the sky? Like, people could say that, oh yeah, they just randomly looked at the same stars, but how did they all come up with the same ritual, right? Like, why didn't they have like the Big Dipper ritual and everyone followed that one in some countries and other people followed the Little Dipper? How did it all turn out to be the Orion one? It's like, what the fuck, right? That's a little bit weird. All right, so to say that sacrifice traditions all ended after Jesus, it turns out there's one follower group that still did it. They didn't believe that Jesus' sacrifice worked, so they kept doing it. and they still get results from it. So that's what I was thinking. Like, I actually had a guest that talked about Santeria on my Magi show before, and we agreed that we wouldn't talk about the sacrifice portion during the show because it was his first time as a guest, and the sacrifice stuff does get pretty graphic, right? So we decided to put that stuff off and maybe for a next part 2 episode. So if anyone wants to hear more about Santeria and how sacrifice still works, then yeah, we might do a show about that. But to be honest, it kind of freaks me out, so I don't know if we'll really do that. We'll see. Right, so sadly enough, a human sacrifice was also used at some point, but I don't think it worked as good as the ox one, to be honest. Because, I don't know, like, we never really had any instructions to sacrifice people. It was always ox, so I don't know why they started sacrificing people instead. Oh, yeah, and that was the Phoenicians. Remember those Phoenician guys? They were also really into the child sacrifice. So I shouldn't say that it was just the Aztecs that did the weird human sacrifice. Even the Phoenicians did. So that's why when people were like saying, why were the Europeans banished out of the Holy Land just because they were tall? It was like, no, it wasn't just because they were giants. It's because they were also doing the child sacrifice. And most people really hated that. So they were willing to wipe out an entire people and wipe their history clean because they fucking hated cannibals and they hated child sacrifice. So that's why I don't really blame them for kicking out all the Europeans for doing that shit. That was pretty brutal. Shouldn't be human sacrificing. Who knows? Like, I really know nothing about it, but just from what I know, I don't think we should be human sacrificing. It's fucking brutal. Right, so yeah, apparently that's the thing. You know how the Magi came to see Jesus? Like, they were the first people to teach him. They even talk about it at Christmas time. So yeah, well, I was going to say the Roman Mithra religion, that's one of the ones. The Romans were still into sacrificing the ox. And they actually drained the blood into the offering tables and tried to like see images like the creator showed. But I don't know if they were actually able to scribe stuff like that. Probably not. Now, this is a picture I took at the museum in Toronto, so that's why it's a little bit bigger and higher resolution. If you want to see this picture or this statue or whatever in person, it's at the Royal Ontario Museum. If you can ever go to museums. Yeah, so that's what I was talking about, how the 3 Magi, the ancient Zoroastrians, basically the pagan fire-worshipping golden bull icon people, they were the first to teach Jesus. And there's an old saying from the Immortals. Like, you know how I talked about each different culture, talked about the Orion ritual and how they had immortals from it? Well, the Immortals in the Irish version, they talked about how they tried to stop people from doing this ritual because they didn't want any more immortals. They said they already had enough immortals and they didn't want any more. So they were actually trying to stop people from becoming immortals. And that makes me wonder, because like the Magi, they came to visit Jesus. What did they get him to do? They taught everyone to stop doing the ritual, right? I don't know if people are still turning into immortal when they ask Jesus for forgiveness, but that could be the case. Let's hope. I know it's kind of a somber conversation to have on Christmas, or not Christmas, Easter. Yeah, so if anyone's wondering, like, why I keep talking about Jesus and sacrifice, a lot of people have lost the message in that already too, because if you don't go to church, even if you do, some churches don't even tell you. But Jesus' death for like getting sacrificed on Easter was for this, so that we never had to do the sacrifice for our sins ever again. And the reason you wanted to sacrifice for your sins is so that you could do rituals. Because they said you couldn't do rituals if you had sin, right? So that's where it's talking about, like, I don't know how this got to the point where over the years people took it as making it to like a heaven in the sky or in another dimension. Could be, but yeah, that's what they were talking about. Is when Jesus was killed, we would never have to sacrifice the ox again as a penance for our sins to do rituals. And the ritual to become an immortal. Yeah, so here's where it's talking about the messiahs, or his disciples, is that they weren't really apologetic explanation for Jesus' crucifixion, proving that Jesus' death was no surprise to God. So they were trying to say that God actually anticipated for Jesus to come to be sacrificed so we'd never have to do this immortal ritual again. I don't know, that seems like a bit of a stretch to me, but we'll see. Yeah, so who is it? Billy Carson? He came on my Magi show once before too. And yeah, it was my most favorite interview. I wish I didn't get so nervous. But anyways, one of the slides he shared from Mexico showed that the base of the sacred tree from Mexico had the same symbology as the Indian one, where you had to burst out of someone's stomach like the sacrifice. So I found that pretty freaky, that openly a lot of these sacred trees talk about sacrifice being part of the ritual. It's kind of freaky. Alright, so yeah, here I was talking about before in Cain and Abel, how Cain, when the first sacrifice, the land of Nod up north in Canada, where I live. Yeah, so I don't know, like it's weird that Jesus and this whole Easter thing dates back all the way to the story of Cain and Abel, where this whole sacrifice tradition was going on, right? So to think if Jesus came sooner, then Cain and Abel would have never had to do sacrifices, and the first murder would have never occurred. So it's pretty wild. I don't know if that's really the case. Right, so here's another slide from J.J. Ainsworth. Holy, this one's from 2019, not that long ago. Now, and she's talking about how the Ankh is the spirit of life and stuff, and it is the symbology of that spinning god, or the Orion man. Oh yeah, and this one's also designed as an offering table. So just like the Creator, when he filled his pool with liquid crystal display, that's what this Ankh was. You could fill it with, I guess, ox blood, and then you could use it as a screen to get images. Yeah, so here was the Orion symbology. There was a guy, I think he's a Freemason writer, William Tyler Occult, or Alcott. I could be wrong about the Freemason thing, but anyways, he does a lot of great articles or diagrams showing Betelgeuse and all the different stars and the Orion's belt figure. Oh yeah, want to know hear one of the trippiest things? If you're looking for a sign that this Orion's belt thing is still active in our history, look at Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse, the star in one of his arms, is currently active, and they said that it's going to glow brighter than the moon soon. So soon we'll see Betelgeuse's arm light up. I don't know if it's going to happen in our lifetime. Some people think it will. If I had to guess, it'll be sometime this year, just to symbolize the metal ox, but I could be way off. So if anyone's wondering what's happening now is evidence that this ritual still isn't dead, the Betelgeuse star is going supernova. Just type it into Google, Betelgeuse supernova. You'll find lots of articles about it. Alright, so here's some more pictures that I got from the Royal Ontario Museum, and it shows some Phoenician works. And they're showing that Phoenicians, they didn't have the horned beasts or gods as demons. They put the ones as wings. So if you had wings, you were considered a demon in the Phoenicians. So I found that interesting. Remember how we were talking about different cultures? Oh yeah, that was the thing. Forgot to mention that one. Remember how I was talking about the rabbit god is a god in the First Nations? Well, check this one out. It turns out in Bulgaria, they have the same hair tradition where he's this like wild shapeshifter creature, but they call him the devil and link him with bad luck. So not to make fun of it one way or the other, but it's pretty wild, right? Same God creator thing, this shape-shifting hair, and it's found across the world. Some call it demons, some call it an angel. So that's what I was getting at with these slides here, is in Phoenicians. The Phoenician gods were devils, and their angels were demons or whatever. And then that's what it was the opposite for the Vedic text. The Vedic text was the opposite, where they said angels were angels and demons were demons. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering why there's 4 wings, I gotta see, do I have the 4-wing slide even ready? I probably left it out, but I'll just get it from somewhere else so I can show you. Yeah, I fucking did leave it out, son of a bitch. Another one of the most important ones, I left it out. Alright, so I'll get it, and at least when I go to redo this episode in maybe next Easter, is I'll have an idea of what I fucked up and I'll be able to get it ready, because quite a few things I missed. Come on, you piece of shit, man. I'm trying to look up the image and I can't fucking find... Ah, there it is. Sorry, I got a bit of a bad temper sitting in these lockdowns for so long. I've actually been under lockdown since 2018 because I had a bad injury. So I went right from a physical injury lockdown into the fucking pandemic lockdown. But it gave me lots of time to research. Got to give it that. Alright, so let's open this one. We'll close this slide because I won't even close, so you can just fuck yourself. I'll just open it. I'll close you automatically. Garbage. Yeah, see, that's what it did. When it opens and you already have it open, I'll just close it automatically. So anyways, this creator or ritual that spins in the sky, the Orion Man, when he spins, it makes it look like there's multiple arms. Because you'll see an arm here, arm there, when it's spinning in this circle. So that's when I realized that the different cultures around the world, when they depicted this Orion Man, they often drew him with 4 arms. Because of him spinning, right? Because when he would spin, there'd be another set of arms, spin, another set of arms. So that's where this 4-arm thing comes in. And the Aztecs, they also drew it with the 4 arms for the spinning. Well, they actually just put the wings. Oh yeah, and this one's one out of funeral objects from Japan or China. I can't remember which. But anyways, they also put the winged disc symbology and then the peacock at the top. We talked about earlier, I don't know if it was this episode, but peacocks are the ultimate animal of transformation or alchemy because they can eat poison snakes and transform it into healthy food. So that's why they were part of the symbology for this transformation ritual. Changing into a light being. Now, if anyone's wondering about the light being transformation, that's one of the things I forgot to cover. Let's do that next. The light beings. No, for a long time, what happened was, like, I don't know, even in church, I never even heard about it. When you hear Jesus' different miracles, turns out one of his best miracles is he changed into a fucking light being. Like a being of pure energy and light. So when he was getting crucified, a lot of his disciples were like, I don't think he's really going to die. Because they figured that they've already seen him change into a body of pure energy and light. So they knew that he was already immortal. So that's what they were thinking, like when this whole Easter thing happened, they weren't actually that freaked out. I think some of them were because they're like, oh, maybe he did die or whatever, but if you've already seen someone change into an immortal with your own eyes, the odds of him dying from like getting stabbed or something is like really slim. Because people pretty much accepted it back then that once you changed into an immortal, like one of those light beings, you can never be killed. So I don't know, a lot of times in church, they don't actually mention the transfiguration, but that is one of Jesus' best miracles, is that he managed to transform into a light being so that he could not be killed. And now it's funny too, the mountain that he transformed on is like a copy of the exact same mountain that we have in my province. Like same height, same angle, same alignment with the equinoxes. It's pretty wild. So I was thinking if anyone's wondering if they have to travel to a certain holy mountain to transform, I bet you it's a lot of different mountains all over the world, not just one specific one. Not that we should, if you transform into immortals. I think the gods will be pissed. They hate immortals. They don't want us. Alright, so yeah, whew, that was close. I gotta stop randomly clicking through stuff because you never know what's gonna pop up, right? Especially on my computer. I don't know how old these pictures of boobs got here. I swear it's a virus. Alright, let's go. What else do we got? Oh yeah, my slides. Let's finish off the Easter special slides. We're getting damn close to the end. Where are we? We got to Cain. We did the Ankh. Oh yeah, the Phoenician gems. So that's where we left off. So yeah, that's where we're showing us where these 4-winged demons come from. That comes from the ritual and the 4-wing thing. So yeah, if you're wondering why demons have horns, it's because of that ox ritual. And if you're wondering why they got wings, it's because of that angel ritual. Well, it's the same ritual, just different phases of it. Part 1, part 2. Alright, let's go to the next part. Holy shit, we're at midnight. Man, this is a long presentation. Where are we at? 2 hours. Holy fuck. Right, so we'll get to a lot of the different pyramids and Stonehenges. I started to realize that all the pyramids and Stonehenges, even Solomon's temple, they're all basic images of this creation mythology. the offering tables, the ritual of Orion, all that shit. I know a lot of people, like I even got a guest that's coming on the show that he likes to disprove Orion research. So we'll have to see, because I haven't really heard much Orion research other than my own. So I'd like to hear what other people have to say about what proves Orion, what disproves Orion, to see where I'm at. I like it when people try to disprove my work, because then it gives me more ammunition of what I need to work on to prove them wrong, right? If everyone just agrees with you, then you don't really learn much. You don't have anything to disprove or confirm or whatever. Yeah, and if anyone's wondering how the Anubis stuff ties in, I think that's what we're coming up to soon. Ooh, the Anubis stuff. I need a drink for that. I was promising myself that I would do some chasers, but man, this whiskey's taken so good. It's a Crown Royal. Love it. All right, so yeah, maybe we'll cover this one a little bit more. Yeah, so that's the holy mountain that's similar to the one that Jesus transformed at, except I like to visit it. And at this point, I was visiting the mountain, and I didn't know anything about the Anubis portion of it. So I just took a picture of myself pouring water into the offering table. And then I happened to get a picture of Anubis doing the same thing. And then I compared the two images, and I was like, holy fuck. It's almost kind of like history repeating. And I didn't even realize that it was going to happen that way. Now, some people might say, oh, you knew about this whole Anubis thing beforehand, and you just staged the photo to look like it. But no, I did not. You just have to take my word on it. Then the other thing, too, is that I started researching an Anubis amulet when I got back from the trip. What happened was someone asked me to look into an Anubis amulet that had been found in an abandoned ancient house. Well, not ancient, but really old house. We'll see if we got it. We'll come up to it in a second. All right, so here's Jesus on the cross symbology. I don't know, maybe we'll cover that next. We'll see where the slides go. Yeah, Hero's going to show the Omega symbol. Remember how that Omega symbol looked? And I was thinking, remember the gates at Neverending Story? If you merge these two gates together, like press the two together, they would eventually make the Omega symbol. So I was thinking that reminds me of the old phrase. Where was it? Yeah, here it is. According to Greek mythology, humans were originally created with 4 arms, just like that creator god in the sky. So we used to be immortals, just like that, with four legs and a head and 2 faces. But fearing their power, because the immortals didn't want all of the humans to be immortals also, Zeus split them into 2 separate parts, condemning them to spend their lives in search of the other halves. So that's basically what we've been doing our entire lives as humans recently. Since we got our immortality powers taken away, we've always been looking for how to become immortals again. So it's pretty fucked, right? Like, it even shows the symbology of the sacred tree behind it. It's pretty wild. I don't know if they intentionally did that. So that's what I was thinking with the gate split in half. If you merge these 2 gates together, it would make the Omega symbol. Right, so this was the old house that the Anubis amulet was found in, and it was found in the ruins of it. So however long the amulet was in the house, no one really knows, right? And we don't even really know if it's an Anubis amulet. That's just my guess from examining it. I took the Anubis amulet to a lab in Toronto, and I got them to examine it, and they found out that not only is it like almost rust proof, but it's like an old form of stainless steel that's older than any known stainless steel. So they said the only stainless steel similar to it is the Damascus swords, the ones that the Phoenicians were trading from Damascus. So it almost makes you wonder if the Phoenicians did carry Anubis amulets to different parts of the world. I don't know. If I had to guess, maybe this is just a copy of one, but a really old copy. So who knows how old it really is. If it's hundreds of years old, if it's thousands, I doubt it. I tried to take it to the museum, but they don't want to see it. So hopefully, maybe one day we'll get a museum that'll change their mind. I did talk to one museum that said they would carbon date the paint for me, but I really don't want to be just peeling off a whole bunch of paint to carbon date it. especially if it is old. But if people want a copy of this Anubis amulet, just let me know. I think maybe I'll start with giving my patrons ones because I don't have that many copies to give out because they're really expensive to make. But maybe if none of the patrons want them, I'll start giving them out to everyone. Or you can just 3D print it yourself. I'll have to share the file with that soon. So my research of Anubis, oh yeah, that's where I got this image from. It was from J.J. Ainsworth. She took a picture of this really old creature from Japan, and it talks about artifacts having their mouths open. And that was a thing in the old days, is it dates back to the Sumerians, and they had this one god that helped mankind by breathing life into mankind after the Great Flood. And so that's what Anubis rituals were also known for, is Anubis would breathe life into people in the afterlife. So it's weird, if you ever see these old ancient statues with their mouths open, it's nothing gross like sexual. I think what it is the breathing life back into people. Not that sex is gross, just mean for YouTube. Alright, so anyways, yeah, and then the sacred tree symbology is often with that. It's also associated with the dog star or Sirius, and also with that whole symbology of Anubis being at the end of the Omega Road. What is it, Canis Minor? Yeah, so that's when I started digging into the Sumerian artifacts. I would find ones that had like the dog gods or waiting at the end of the Palladian Road. Yeah, some caves in Bulgaria had the same Anubis symbology in them. And the Holy Mount in Bulgaria and Canada were actually almost identical copies of each other. I don't know how that's possible, but who knows. Oh yeah, and then this one is a Phoenician version of Anubis, which I was surprised the Phoenicians had their own Anubis. And they drew him sitting with his mouth open the same way that we found the amulet. I think there was an Aztec Anubis. Do I have him ready? Let's hope. Oh fuck, man, I don't have the Aztec Anubis. You gotta be fucking shitting me. Alright, so let's open the Aztec Anubis page. You want to be a son of a whore like that? Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'll just fucking reopen you, you piece of shit. Alright, so do I have it there? No, I do not. Why am I not surprised? Now, if you want to find this, just type in Aztec Dog God. It should bring it up. Yeah, here he is. I know, like most people, when you hear Anubis, you're like, oh, it's Egypt. How many people know that there's Anubis in Aztec mythology? And why? Because of this fucking Easter ritual in the fucking sky that everyone in the whole world is following. But anyways, let's bring it up. Yeah, so here's the Anubis from the Aztecs. They obviously didn't give him the same name. They called him Zoltl or something like that. And he was a fire or lightning god. And he was depicted as a dog-headed man and a soul god or a soul guide for the dead. Sort of like when you get to the end of the road on that chart in the sky. He was also the god of twins. Remember how man was separated into two halves? Monster, misfortune, sickness, and deformities. It was weird. I asked my cousin to draw Anubis for me, and she drew him all deformed. And I was like, why did you do that? She's like, I don't know, I just felt like it. And then after I found out that, yeah, Anubis was also associated with deformities. And the evening stars, heavenly fire. So you kind of see where this all sort of ties together. That one really reminds me of the amulet there, how he's sitting with his mouth open. It's almost identical. Now I wonder if it says anything about the Pleiades in here. I know the ball game's in there. I was really big into the ball game when I was growing up. I used to get trained by deities in my dreams how to play it better. It's pretty funny. Not so much anymore. Not into playing sports as much as I used to in my younger years. Alright, so that's just a little bit of a look at the Anubis god and how that associates with how that Canis Minor is at the end of this road in the afterlife, and it's pretty much a universal legend. No matter what continent on the globe you go to, you'll find Anubis in some form or another. Right, so yeah, are we getting close to the end of the slides? Man, looks like we are. Let's see. Not that I've been looking forward to the end. I just want to get back to some more vaping. All right, so what did we all cover? We covered the Easter basket and how it was associated with the ritual and how you can fill the offering table in order to see images of the future, sort of like how the prophet Shawanasawe saw, and how it's associated with Easter, the whole sacrifice portion. Then we got the eggs and how they're involved in transformation. We got the Easter rabbit and how he's tied to all the sacrifice rituals around the world. And hopefully we don't need to sacrifice rituals anymore, because that's what Jesus was sent here. Apparently the whole Easter ritual was to prove that you can achieve immortality without having to do the ox sacrifice after all. So hopefully that really is the case. I don't know, not that I want to become immortal, but I really don't want to be sacrificing oxes. It's fucking disgusting. But anyways, yeah, so here's one of the candles, or not candles, incense holders that I got from China. And it shows like the metal ox taking a bath in the incense smoke. It happens to be in the shape of that the offering table. So I was like, isn't that funny how much of the Chinese like symbology still exists to this day? It's not just Eastern America, it's not just China, it's the First Nations, it's Africa, it's the Aboriginals in Australia and all over the other continents. Or anyone else I forgot. So yeah, I think that's about all that I wanted to cover in slides wise. I think what I got left is maybe a couple things with Wikipedia pages I forgot to cover, and we'll answer any other questions if anyone's left in the chat. I know I was getting on a roll there, so I didn't want to interrupt myself too much with questions. Sorry everyone. But if anyone's answered or left questions in the chat, I'll try to get to them all before we wrap up here. What image do I want to leave on the screen? I guess that one's good for now. What are the all slides? I think we covered every single slide. Yeah, that was epic. Now to think of it, there was a couple other slides I wouldn't mind to include, like the ones that we missed, so I'll have to watch the replay and include those. Let's go check it out and see what we got for our questions in the chat. Chat. Oh my god, did I close the fucking chat completely? Oh, for God's sakes, I did. Piece of shit. Sorry for swearing so much, everyone. I don't know, lately I find that I'm reaching the point of an ulcer, and if I don't swear like a fucking trucker, I'm gonna end up getting an ulcer. So it's one lesser of two evils, right? Yeah, sorry if anyone's wondering why I'm not responding to the chat. I had the fucking chat closed. That's why. Son of a bitch. Alright, so yeah, we do got some questions that date back to the beginning of the show. We got 6 likes. Thanks, everyone. But no one was able to stay till the end. I don't blame you. It was a long episode. So let's give a shout out to everyone who came and joined the show chat. We got Kim Jong Midway. Thanks a lot, Kim Jong. Dan Quack. Thanks, Dan. And Dan Davis. I'm pretty sure Dan Davis is one of my patrons. So a big shout out to everyone who helped out with watching the show in the chat. Really appreciate it. Not worthy. Not worthy. Alright, so we gave a shout out to everyone on the chat. Let's give a shout out to the patrons list. Yeah, let's do that next. Yeah, if anyone likes my ancient mystery research and occult symbology, just make sure to help out. I also do gaming videos and travel vlogs. You can help out by joining the patrons. We got plans starting at just $1 a month. So far that's helping is Suki, Travis, Ray, and Jim. And if anyone's wondering why everyone's not still signed up, anyone who helps, I keep them on the list to give them a shout out, even if they have to cancel. So if you want to sign up for Patreon, just help out with a few months and then cancel. Don't worry, I'll still give you a shout out for it. I won't make fun of you for canceling either. Alright, so yeah, let's go back to the show page. Alright, so we went over the Patreons. We went over that, and let's go over the final parts to the show. See if I forgot anything. Alright, so we went over the transfiguring of Jesus. The sacred bull. We didn't get too much into that, so let's go over that a little bit. So if anyone's wondering, the sacred bull, it's pretty much like one of those traditions that, since it connects to the Easter ritual or the immortality ritual, you'll find it everywhere around the world, including the Sumerians, Let's see what they got a list of. The Sumerians, Egypt, Anatolia, Crete, Iran, Asia, Cyprus, Levant, Greece, the Roman Empire, and the Celts. So the Celts, they would be the ones doing it for maybe the Druids and stuff. Roman Empire would be those Mithra cults. Greece would be the, was it Zeus and all that? Cyprus might be that. Iran would be the ancient or the Aryans that took the knowledge to the Vedic texts. Crete, that's the island. Anatolia, Egypt, and Mesopotamia. So just a little bit of a look, and it's basically the same thing. All religions with cows and bulls being worshipped at different stages of history. It even mentioned Shiva. I was thinking the main thing that you're not allowed to sacrifice bulls in India is probably because of the immortality thing. They didn't want anyone to become immortals, so they actually banned sacrificing there. Weren't allowed to kill the bulls anymore, which is pretty good. No more immortals, but at least you got no more sacrifice. Alright, the sacred bull survives in the constellation Taurus. So they even admit that the reason the bull sacrifices were happening is because of that Taurus in the sky. So we already covered where the Orion arms reach to it. I know they talk about different New Age cults that are using it. I'm not trying to start a cult. Hopefully not. Unless there's a whole bunch of hot babes involved. No, I'm just kidding. Better not tempt me. Alright, so yeah, that's the bull. It talks about that, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, it shows the bull and the winged disc above it. I know a lot of people must have looked at these and had no idea what the winged disc and the bull and it was even talking about. But now that you know it's the ancient immortality ritual, maybe it opens up people's eyes a little bit more. I don't know I'll have all the answers to it either. I'm just beginning. Oh, it's neat that the Zoroastrians, they're the ones that had the mythical bulls. They used to create the golden calf icons. Moloch. The idols that Greece or that Noah's damn pagan relatives were always doing. Here's another one of the Mithra statues, that one at the British Museum. I don't think quite as nice as the one in Toronto. Let's look at horn deities. We never really covered that, eh? Yeah, so if anyone's wondering where the horn deities come from, it's that portion of the ritual, right? If you're at that early stage, then they'll depict you with horns. If you made it to the wing stage, then they'll depict you with wings. I could be wrong about that because that is one of my most recent theories. So I know I get new theories about this every year. So if anyone has new theories, don't hesitate to challenge mine. More challenges, the better. Yeah, I wonder if Zeus had the horns, eh? Now that's what I was thinking about, how they often show people as like half man, half animal. Maybe that's depicting that we were actually doing the ritual and reconnecting with our other half. You know, the half that we're missing that they talked about Zeus splitting us from. So if we start to connect to our other half, maybe our other half is more in connection with the animals. Yeah, and then here they got the Canaanites. So remember those, the sons of Noah that had to be wiped out and you weren't allowed to teach anyone? So, yeah. See, he's saying that he's going to cut the horns off all the wicked. So anyone who's demonic has horns. Anyone who's doing that part of the ritual. Here it is, Magic Jacob. For his horns are of the wild ox. So isn't it funny when they show that someone has horns, they're saying it's ox horns. I wonder why. Because of the fucking ox ritual. My guess. Not only my guess, I'm sure lots of other people have come up with this theory as well. If anyone else knows people who have, shared in the chat. Maybe I can get them on the show as a guest to talk about it. Yeah, here they talk about collecting the bulls or the ox's blood at the base of the offering tables in order to summon the creator or the god. Now I'm surprised, like I don't know if they really associate it much with the actual Orion ritual. I don't think they do much in here, did they? Holy fuck, the horned serpent appears in many mythologies of the Native Americans. So they knew all about achieving the horns as well. And not just getting horny, right? I'm not talking about the lockdown type of horny. I'm talking about the ancient rituals. Yeah, so the Phoenicians and the Carthaginians in Africa. So it's interesting. They often put the Phoenicians as African history, but that's the same thing with like the colonization of Africa today when the different Europeans moved in. So I'm more looking for the actual African history, not just the Phoenicians imposing their stuff on the Africans. Who knows? A lot of people debate and say that the Phoenicians did have a multicultural society to a point where they did take in people from other cultures into their own families. So it wouldn't be just Europeans completely. You'd have like a lot of different mixed people. Oh, dear God. No one else saw that, did they? Fucking, that's why I gotta be careful when you show shit on Wikipedia, man. Some of the shit they put on there, I'm like, dear God, man, why are you putting that shit on there? No, it was just a cultural statue, and I'm sure he was just playing leapfrog. Had nothing else happening in that statue. Fucking stupid Wikipedia. Anyways. Yeah, let's go on to what else are we going to cover that I forgot. The crucifixion. Did we cover that? Alright, so here we go. Oh, fuck, man. I had it right on the part I wanted to read, and then it changed it to where it was like somewhere random on the fucking screen. So now I have to go through the whole thing to try to find where it was just at. Yeah, see here they're talking about the theological significance. Is they say that Jesus' sacrifice was for eternal life, so that we could turn into immortals without having to sacrifice anymore. The only thing that seems so weird about that, how many people do you know that have changed into an immortal? Like literally there's like, what is it? Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus. That's about it, right? Like maybe, I don't even think Shawanasawi did it as far as I know. So that's what I was thinking, when we keep saying that Jesus has taught us to all turn into immortals without having to do the ritual sacrifice, like how many people are actually accomplishing it? Unless it's the thing where you just die and then you become immortal, but they're pretty specific that you don't die. You actually turn into a light being. There's no actual dying part to it. Like even Jesus, he rose from the dead 3 days later. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to talk about. Yeah, it turned out in our city, or our province, or was it our province? Maybe it was somewhere in the States. But anyways, someone had their kid go missing. So they went to go look for the kid, and he was lost in the forest for 3 days. So if anyone's heard about the story of Jesus, how he was buried and rose after 3 days or whatever. So here you got that 3-day thing again. And then they said it was a miracle that the kid was found after 3 days. So it was like a miracle that Jesus rose from the dead after 3 days. And then what was the other part of the story? Oh yeah, and the kid was out in the cold, like winter temperatures at night, and it rained all 3 days. So he was basically, should have been dead, guaranteed. No food, no water. Well, unless he was drinking rain. But, and then, yeah, no food, no water, and the freezing cold temperatures, and being soaking wet the whole time. So you think most people, even adults, would just get hypothermia. Now I was going to show you guys in my Orthodox church from Ukraine, they use those tools, except they shape them as a pine cone. So when they dip it in the bag of holy water, they dip a pine cone in and then they spread the holy water on people. So if anyone sees those ancient Sumerian ones, why they're dipping a pine cone into the bucket, that's why. And it's supposed to be a bird, but I don't think that's really true. I think it's the pine cone it's supposed to be. All right, so that was one of the tools I forgot to cover. Let's see what else we got for the show. Oh yeah, the generations of Noah. I never even covered that. Oh yeah, we did. All the different tribes from Noah's family. Yeah, and they talked about how some of Noah's family went to Africa and Asia. Some of them ended up having families in Asia, coming back and starting the Roman Empire. So it's interesting that the ancient sons of Noah that went to China and started a new family, came back with half Chinese blood, ended up becoming the Romans. Then even DNA studies have confirmed that today. And they're trying to figure out how the Chinese came to Rome. And then they don't realize that the old texts talk about it goes the other way. The people from Rome went to China and then came back and started Rome. First guy was his name, Romulus. Yeah, Romulus's parents. It would have been half Noah's ancestry and then half Chinese. Yeah, so they talk about the different countries, like going to Africa and all the different places. So if people want to say the generations of Noah could include all races, I'm up for that idea, but there's definitely some European ones in there as well. That's the thing that tends to get overlooked. Oh yeah, didn't even have it on the screen to show you. Sorry. Yeah, I was just looking over the different books. They talk about the different sons of Noah and how he could have went to different places. See, some people have different theories about all the books of Noah and where all the different families went. A lot of it got mixed up with racism ideas, so definitely want to steer clear of that. Alright, so what else? We did that, Bophunia, Pleiades, Crucifix, the Easter egg, Generations of Noah, the burnt offerings. I think we covered that a little. The energy beings. Yeah, let's go into that. So that transfiguration where Jesus turned into an energy being, it's popular in a bunch of science fiction and also different ancient religious traditions. The Zoroastrians, even the Asian traditions. Like I think Buddha, he changed into a light being as well. I know light beings used to be the ultimate quest for everyone on the planet, but as we developed like porn and sports, we kind of got sidetracked. We all don't think about transforming into light beings as much as we used to. Right, Alpha to Omega, we covered that, why you find it in churches. Oh yeah, here's the ideas. So if anyone's wondering about Vedic and Sanskrit or Avestan, that's like the old Zoroastrians and the old people from India. And they talk about how they all have the same words, but the only difference is that they're opposites. Like the Avesta evil spirits are the good spirits in the Vedic, and vice versa. So it just goes to show you, like, one man's demon is another man's angel, depending which man you ask. So there is a lot of theories about that. People can argue about it in the chat if they want. All right, Avestan. Let's take a look at Avestan. Avestan's the old Zoroastrian stuff, basically the old Europeans, dating back all the way to the Sumerian times. Today we call them the Zoroastrians, and they're mainly like, what do they call them, Farsi people? So they're not really the ancient Europeans anymore. Things have changed. Remember we covered that one slide where Darius teamed up with the Jewish scribes and wiped out all the pagans and took their history and made it their own? So yeah, that's a little bit interesting about that. The World Egg and the Orion mythology. Yeah, so now we covered all the Wikipedia stuff too. Right, so yeah, thanks everyone who managed to watch this whole episode. I guess it turned out to be 2.5 hours long. And if there's any questions you want to leave in the chat, just let me know. If you want to be a guest, come on the show and talk about it. When I re-record this and try to make it a little bit more polished, a little bit less swearing, add in all the images I forgot, and add in any parts from the chat that come out to be interesting. We'll add it to the next video. Alright, so thanks to all the researchers like JJ and all the other people that shared cool images from around the world in museums. If anyone wants to see my images from museum collections, just let me know. I have quite the collection of pictures as well. Yeah, and I've got a million different theories, new ones every year on what they mean. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Appreciate everyone for sticking around this long. What else was there? Yeah, let's go to my affiliate links. If anyone was always asking in the chat how they can help me if they don't have money to help with patrons, I use all these programs myself to help raise money just because I don't really earn much at work. I do personal caregiver work, volunteered for my uncle, so most of my day is just volunteer work and I don't really make much money-wise, but no, I'm starting to get more hours at work again. We're getting a hospital bed for my uncle and he'll be able to sit up and take medications without me having to lift him every time. Right, so yeah, if you want to help out yourself and help me out at the same time, you can follow these offers. We got Patreon, we already showed that. Society 6, finishing quick is my specialty. It comes on t-shirts and bed sheets, both popular with the ladies. We definitely didn't finish this show quick, so you can see it's not always my specialty. Keep it in mind, ladies. No, just kidding. Hideout TV, they'll pay you to watch videos. Swagbucks will pay you to shop online. And GameKit will pay you to try video games. How these offers work: Hideout TV splits ad revenue, so instead of just giving it to video creators, they split it with the viewers as well. Swagbucks, they want market research, so they ask you what you purchased, why you purchased it, and if it was a good deal, and then they keep the market research and you get cash back on your purchases. GameKit, they want you to try these new free-to-play games, so if you try out the games, and if you like them and you get at certain levels, they'll give you points. Those points can be redeemed for Amazon gift cards. And they hope that you'll deposit and start making money deposits into those games. So it's kind of like a drug dealer trying to get you hooked. So just be careful. All right, so free Bitcoin is a wallet system for cryptocurrencies. If you want a free wallet system to buy and sell and trade cryptocurrencies, it's really good. I've got 2 of them linked below, and they both have casinos involved too. So just make sure you follow the regional laws. Make sure you're old enough, or if you're even allowed to use cryptocurrencies. Just make sure you don't break any rules. All right, and I also got the Virtual Mate sex machine. It's for adults and men only. But if ladies need a sex machine, they know who to call. Just kidding. In my country, we have lockdowns forever. Virtual Mate is a real product. Kickstarted, crowdfunded, has shipped. Gets mixed reviews, so some people love it, others hate it. Keep that in mind, and just don't try returning it after you use it. It's really gross. Even for me. You know, if I say it's gross, it's got to be really gross. Alright, so yeah, Virtual Mate. Oh yeah, click show more information. If you want my website, it's in there too. I used to have the Anubis amulet on there, but I might add it again later. I just a little bit want to save something for the patrons, so maybe I'll give it to them first. But we'll see. As time progresses, I'll probably give it to everyone. I hate being so exclusive. I want everyone to be included, even people that don't have the money to do it. Right, so let's see, what else do we got? Let's go to my fire screen. Fire screen. If you happen to get any Easter eggs in your vaporizer and it tastes like shit, give the show a dislike. But if it doesn't happen, you can give the show a like. Really appreciate it.
Just make sure never buy the products from my sponsor, because it will ruin your life.
Bye for now, everyone. See you later. No, I didn't do the sponsor message because it's a little bit of a funny sponsor. If you want, jump into my archives. You can check out who it is. All right, see you later. Bye for now, everyone. See you later. Later. Oh yeah, happy Easter. And I hope I didn't ruin anyone's Easter with some wild theories. Remember, it's just theories. Who knows what Easter is really all about? Let's hope it's just forgiving sins and we're all off to heaven, right? Let's see you later. Have a good one. Bye. Dan Davis was saying he'd like the show. He thought it was interesting. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. It's a really nice compliment. I know this is the weirdest research anyone's ever come up with. So I really, when someone says they like it, I'm like, man, you're a little bit weird, but I appreciate it. Alright, see you later. Bye for now.